Open up the meeting. We've got a quorum here. We're waiting for one individual to show back up with his cowboy hat on, so he'll come in. We can make fun of him when he does. So appreciate everyone coming tonight. As you probably noticed, I am not Debbie Kling. She is going to be spending the evening with her family celebrating her husband's birthday tonight, and that's just something special. Oh, there he is. Let's all applaud Victor. Okay. Thanks for getting here on time almost. So anyway, I'm Randy Haverfield. I am the president of the city council, so I'll be sitting in for the mayor this evening. Anything I do wrong, you can blame her for. So if we go ahead and once Victor sits himself, we'll go ahead and have a roll call. Oh, yeah, actually we're not. We're gonna go ahead and call to order, which I've done, and we're gonna have a pledge to the flag and an invocation by Chris Evenson with Nampa Seventh-day Adventist Church. You'll all stand. No, we pray first.
We pray first. Council members, thank you for the opportunity to be here to pray at the onset of this meeting this evening. Let's bow our heads. Father in heaven, Lord, we thank you so much for your love for us. We thank you for your many blessings. Lord, we thank you for this amazing country that we live in, the freedoms that you have given to us. Lord, we thank you for the state of Idaho and the blessing that it is to us all, and for this wonderful city of Nampa. Lord, we thank you for the privileges that we enjoy here, the freedoms that we enjoy. This evening, Lord, as the council takes on the business of this city to continue to keep it a wonderful place to live, we pray for wisdom for each one. As they consider the different motions on the table tonight and the discussions that will take place, we pray that you will give them wisdom from on high, that the decisions that they make will be for the blessing of the citizens of the city, and that we will continue to enjoy this great place. So bless this evening and all that takes place. We thank you for your presence here. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Go ahead and lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you praying for us this evening. Okay, now we'll have a roll call.
Rodriguez. Brunner.
Here.
Jingula.
Here.
Reynolds. Haverfield.
Here.
Bauer.
Here.
All present.
Okay, we do have one proposed amendment to the agenda. It's item 612. Is that the only amendment? Okay, so item 612 on our agenda has been removed from tonight's hearing. So other than that, does anyone else have any proposed amendments to the agenda? If not, I would accept a motion to approve the agenda as amended, removing item 612.
So moved. Second.
Okay? Let's go ahead and have a roll call on that.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, and again, for the council's understanding, since the mayor is not here tonight to break a tie, a 3-3 vote is a no vote. So I cannot break a tie. Just keep that in mind as we deliberate. So on to public forum. We do have individuals signed up to speak.
Yes, Council President, we have 3 individuals currently. Our first one is Honey Goodman.
Okay. And again, Honey, if you can come forward, you have 3 minutes to share what you'd like to share. Go ahead and give us your address again for the record.
I'm Honey Goodman. Address is 5420 Craig Lane, Nampa, Idaho, 83686. Better? Thanks, sorry about that. I just am here just to remind everyone that we have our third Thursday event. And on behalf of the business owners in downtown Nampa, the BID and the DNCA, they've requested I come and make sure that I invite you. I know that it would mean a lot to them to see the representatives of our city to be at our event on the third Thursday. So all I'm going to do is hand out the invitation and get out of here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ooh, thank you.
Our next speaker is Christian Case on a non-agenda item.
Thank you.
Hello, President Haverfield and members of the council. I'm Christian Case, and I live at 435 Arrowhead Drive, Nampa. I'm speaking today about COVID viruses and vaccines. It seems like issue is simply not going to go away. Simply because they seem to be more in my sources of news, I infer that we're going to get another push. And I just want to remind you that this push is not from our friends, that, in my opinion at least, the virus is there to scare you into taking the vaccine, and the vaccine is there to kill you. If not immediately, then make you sick until you are dead. Whatever we do, please take care not to allow them to vaccinate our children, because they're going to have to live with this a lot longer than we do. And that's all. Thank you for listening, and God bless you.
Thank you. Appreciate your coming forward tonight.
Our next speaker is Susan McKay, and she is speaking on an agenda item.
You need me to state my address?
Please.
It is 1608 West Aberdeen Avenue, Nampa 83686.
Thank you.
And I'm just here tonight in support of your 6-2 action item for consideration of a waiver to allow on-premise beer, wine, and liquor sales for the new business going in. And I'm just here to support that. They're an amazing family, deeply rooted in Nampa. And I think it is something that we need to look at, considering where our families can go to be together. And I like the fact that they're gonna use a business that's already there, utilizing an empty property versus all the new building that's taking place. So I just want you to hear from citizens in Nampa that we support that business. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming this evening.
Council President, there is no one else signed up in advance.
Okay. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item? If not, we'll go ahead and move on to proclamations, and good fortune tonight, there are none, so I don't have to read them. Had to read 3 the last time I sat in this chair. So the next item is agency and commission reports. Again, we don't have any that I'm aware of. So we'll move on to staff communications. And the first is from our Public Works staff. Tom is not here, so. Oh, there you are. So Jeff is going to speak.
Council President Haverfield and City Council members, thanks for your time tonight. Before we get to the update on Group F, the waste, Amy Bowman's going to come up and tell you about our Public Works magazine, which is amazing if you haven't seen it. And Amy does a great job.
Oh, thanks. Well, really, I just wanted to come up and brag. So each councilman this year has their own copy of what we're calling our Public Works magazine. And it's really an amazing compilation of what our Public Works team does, Tom, Jeff, and all the amazing guys in our Public Works departments. And I just wanted to draw your attention to it, that it's special that you get your own copy. And to really just encourage you to look through it and read it, because there's so much amazing data in here. And I also wanted to say thank you, Caitlin Scott, who is my counterpart in Public Works, to this amazing graph that kind of talks about the process for improvements, which can be a little bit complicated. And so she did a really great job of outlining it. And anyway, it's also on our website. The digital version was free, so, but these cost money, so please just enjoy reading it. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
So, Mr. President, just a quick question, Amy, before you go. So thank you for putting it on the website. So how many of these did we print? They're beautiful, by the way.
We only printed about 50.
Thank you. So I just had that thought that about 6 years ago, we were mailing things out all over the place, so we're not mailing something like this
no.
out, right? Okay.
No.
All right. Thanks. Great job.
So Jeff Barnes, Director of Water Resources for Public Works. Tonight we'll be providing a brief update on Group F, our wastewater treatment plant upgrade project, which was given construction notice to proceed in December. They started construction and are about 4 to 5 months into construction. Many years of preparation went into this project, and we're seeing the benefit of good planning and engineering and good public outreach design. I want to recognize the importance of our design review committee, which is made up of citizens, staff, professionals, and the city council members. And thank you to Council President Haverfield for serving on that, and Councilman Bruner, who spent several years, and that design review committee is making key decisions, and we're seeing the fruit of that right now. For ongoing communication with the council, this is kind of what we have planned, and if you would like more information, let me know. We'll be providing monthly construction council updates, and those will be in your council agendas. Monthly executive summaries to the mayor and finance, where we'll be going through the details of the project. Bi-monthly updates to the design review committee. Quarterly construction updates like today here. You'll get a little bit more of a deep dive into where we're at with construction. And then quarterly public information announcements we're going to distribute to the city to let them know what's happening at the wastewater treatment plants, which is pretty amazing. If you want to take a tour, if you want any more information, let me know. I know Councilman Reynolds is coming out in the beginning of August, so looking forward to that. We have a great internal and external team working on this project. I just want to introduce a few people. Some of them you obviously know, and maybe not all of them you know. Andy Zimmerman is our wastewater superintendent, and Shannon Johnson next to him is our program director for the wastewater treatment plant. They have 42 years of experience here, the NAMPA at our plant, and are invaluable in leadership. So thank you for what you're doing. I want to introduce the Jacobs team here, and they have quite a few of them tonight, so I'm going to go through the list here. Greg Fisher is here. He's the VP in the back row. Greg Thompson is also a VP and a project manager in the front. We got David Dwyer as a project manager. Lamar Parker, who's running the construction, has got a little bit going on these days. And then Kike Ramos is next to him and a construction manager on the team. So they've come out tonight. They're going to give a brief update on construction. And so I want to invite Greg up first, and they'll give you a presentation, and it'll be brief.
Council President, Council, thank you for having us here, and thank you for the opportunity to work on the project. Greg Thompson. So, a little status update. You should have a monthly report in your packet. We are done with design, finished design at the end of May, and we are again into construction, about 15% complete. You can see here construction on the clean water facility, which is the very end tertiary treatment of the plant. Progress to date in your monthly report, you can see some numbers, some timelines, a few interesting statistics about the project, such as 135,000 cubic yards of soil have already been moved. So if you have any questions on that, let me know. I'm going quick because we want to focus on escalation. Also, you can see kind of the status as we go each month, kind of where we are in progress on each facility. Again, that is a rendering of what your final facilities will look like. You can kind of see the facilities projected on top of a photograph there. And we're also working on the recycled water pipeline as a team. The city's really focused right now on getting approval from UPRR and the 2 private property owners. And then we'll be able to complete that section over to Phillips Canal. You can see a rendering of the outfall there right in front of, you can see Fred Meyer on the right, Office Depot on the left. That's, again, a rendering of the facility. Okay, no questions?
Just a quick one. This is a progressive design build, and you said the design is complete?
Yes, it is.
So is it now just value engineering that you'll be looking at performing as far as you move further through the project, or is everything
The
been
engineering team?
designed? Yeah,
Yeah, we continue to support construction through responding to questions, RFIs, as we usually call
Right.
them. Submittal process, we're only partially through the submittal process. Lots of stuff still coming in that way. And then if there's any issues that come up, we help resolve them. We have full-time engineers out there, maybe 5 full-time engineers out there supporting the project.
okay. And so that
And then
answers it.
construction crew is much larger than that, so.
Yes. And the recycle line, water line is in the project cost, is that correct?
It's in the project cost, it's not in our contract yet. That'll be well, it's in the contract, but it's not been authorized yet.
Okay, so that'll be something we'll be speaking to later.
Yeah, we're still, again, waiting for final authorization before we kind of negotiate the final numbers,
Okay.
so.
Thank you, Greg. Any other questions for Greg? It's a hot topic, wastewater.
All right. David's going to talk about escalation.
Thank you, Greg. This project, Group F, has actually gotten off to a phenomenal start. That doesn't necessarily mean much to most people unless you understand how difficult the market is right now and how many other projects are struggling or have not even been started due to labor shortages, material shortages, escalation, stuff like that. So I want to share a little bit about that background before I share the good news in a couple of slides. What you're looking at here on the blue line is the number that you guys all hear on the news. That is the inflation rate for consumers, you and me, spending our money at the grocery store. It's about 9% as of June. For new construction in an industrial complex, that number is 23.5%. That means as of May, material cost for the same project is 23% more than it would have been in May of last year. So it's pretty significant. There's some other facts and figures on this slide, but I think we're going to try and move on a little bit. Oh, you want to talk about? Oh, swipe. Thank you. So some of the more pertinent ones that you'll see on here, this is back from when we started design in 2020. On the left-hand side of these graphs are the changes in price for a lot of the common materials that we use, like structural steel, rebar, pipe, conduit fittings, stuff like that. What you're looking at there is not the change in price. What you're looking at there is not the price, it's the change in price. So even when you see a big dip like the yellow-orange item for conduit, that doesn't mean that the price is going down. It just means that the increase is slowing to a 40% inflation instead of an 80% inflation a couple of months ago, which is still bonkers. The lowest one there is for concrete block, which is about 13.5%. On the right-hand side, you also see that we're struggling in a labor market now. The construction industry has about 450,000 job openings. So just getting workers on site has also been a struggle. We've also seen things like material times taking much longer, almost doubling or tripling in some cases to be able to get construction material onto a site. I've included some more resources here if you're interested in any more of these mini graphs at the FRED, which is the Federal Reserve and Economics database. Second link there, you can read about a lot of the interconnected relationships between these things. And lastly, the good news on this project, just due to the progressive design build model of contract and the fact that we were able to negotiate these things in December and be able to buy and start construction much sooner than we actually completed the design, we were able to save the city a substantial amount of money. If you remember, I said the construction costs were about 23% on the year for material. We have spent roughly 6% escalation in construction material, or about 2.5% of our authorized contract right now. So we had foreseen this, and the Group F committee had done an excellent job of allocating some money to cover that. Well, we've come in under budget, and we're returning about $830,000 to the Project Group F Fund to tackle some of the other issues that they are going to need on the plant. As of now, we've actually completed all the buyout on the project, even though we've only just now gotten to 100% design. But everything is contracted, we've got material on the way, and we've got our pulse on anything that may be a potential delay. And we're making sure that we're keeping tabs on everything to make sure that there's no delays yet on the project so that we can finish on time and keep all the dollars local. That's all. Any questions?
David, the 100% buyout of products, does that mean the products are in a stored facility, or are they on their way still, or?
That means that we have a contract in place for them. For the majority of them, that means they have been ordered already, and we are just
Okay.
awaiting delivery.
So there still could be a delay or two as far as in the delivery if they're still sitting in a dock somewhere
Many of the
offshore.
items, especially a lot of the process equipment, will take a year to 14 months for delivery, but we do have them approved and on order.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President and Council. That's all we have this evening.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Question for you then. The reports that we'll be receiving, will they be just sent to us, or is it going to be presented at the council meetings
Yeah,
themselves?
it's
or
actually,
both?
put it in the last council packet. So there's a brief update in the presentation tonight included in your packet, and then we'll give a more exhaustive report on the next council meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right. Building safety report. Patrick.
Councilman Hammerfield and Council, my name is Patrick Sullivan. I'm the Director of Building Safety. And I want to introduce you to our new building official. We haven't had a building official for a few years. I've been wearing two hats of both building official and director. And just recently, we went through a selection process, and we were able to hire from within. And I wanted to introduce you to our new building official, which is Jeff Miranda.
Welcome.
Thank you. Started in the construction industry in 1992, and was a former contractor, heating and cooling contractor, as well as a plumbing contractor. And life changes, and got an opportunity to come to work for the city. And 8 years ago, served as the inspector supervisor for the last 5 years, and looking forward to being the building official for the city and continuing to grow our partnerships with the builders. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Councilman Haverfield, I have a short update just on how since we have a new building official, I thought tell you a little bit about the role of a building official. Let me get on to our Teams meeting and share. See if that's going to go.
Everybody leaves. Before you start doing, I'm going to ask Hubert, how come he doesn't have a hat on?
Because I'm not a cowboy, I'm a sodbuster.
That's for sure.
Oh, I see.
Juryman can't wear hats.
So I think I have it queued up here. I wanted to tell you a little bit about, we had the opportunity to actually host Victor Rodriguez at one of our staff meetings last week. And he thanked us for basically just telling him how we take in permits, how we do the plan review, how then we do the inspections, our current volume. And he suggested that more people should know. So we thought we'd set up this staff report and just let you know the basics of what we do in building safety. So let's see here. So anyway, there are minimum code requirements. We adopt as a city the state adopted building, fire, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing codes. And the intent of the codes is really to set minimum requirements to protect health, safety, and welfare of the public with concern with the built environment, whether it be a remodel or new construction. And one thing we find that minimum code doesn't always meet expectations of good workmanship or best practices. However, a lot of times it does. It really is the basic prescriptive way things should be built to have a minimum level of safety. So our inspectors protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public through inspection of construction. And we just verify that it meets minimum code requirements. So a lot of times, there's many ways to perform construction, whether it be plumbing or electrical or HVAC especially, because they're complicated systems and a lot of times they're very schematic on the drawings. So basically the building official is the department head or the administrator of the building department. They're responsible for code interpretation and enforcement for the city as a jurisdiction. And then the building official delegates authority for code administration for permit processing, plan review, and field inspections. And again, code requirements aren't always black and white. So the way we apply code is there's the intent of the code requirement, and there may be a prescriptive method, which has many options or many exceptions, or it could be just super black and white. It has to be done a certain way. And then there's interpretation, because not everything is shown on the plans exactly the way it's going to be installed, because it's shown schematically, and there's many ways to install certain items, unless it's very specific of, a beam goes into a hanger and is it connected to a wall or connected to a post. So, and then there's alternatives of the code, and it's really the responsibility of the building official by researching and also getting with the code writers that write all the codes and getting opinions of those codes to find alternatives to materials and methods of how to construct. So again, codes don't address every detail in construction. And then plan reviewers and inspectors are really authorized to make interpretation of the code based on the code language and the department's policy regarding code interpretations. The other thing we do is we have a local and a statewide building code associations, and we bounce around ideas to all of our peers, especially in the Valley. If we're going to make a call that might be controversial or a call that we've never made before, we reach out to our other building officials in the Valley and say, well, how have you handled this? We don't want to be told from time to time that, oh, you're the only one that's ever called this on me. I've been doing this for 30 years. And we get a lot of that, and sometimes you're compelled to call the building official in Meridian, Boise, and just ask them while the person's staying there. It's like, do you really not call this? And sometimes that's true, but very rarely is that true, because we really do communicate. So the building official is authorized to make the interpretations and code application decisions that maintains the intent of the code. And if there is an appeal, which anybody can appeal a decision by the building official, it goes to our Building and Fire Code Advisory and Appeals Board. And the purpose of that is to hear and decide appeals of orders, decisions, and determinations made by the building official relative to the application interpretation of the building code, and to determine the suitability of alternative methods and construction methods. It does not mean they can change or put variances in the code language. They can only rule whether or not the building official correctly applied that code. And we have a neighboring code official or fire official on there, and we have contractors and design professionals, people in the construction industry who can weigh in on code matters. So it all comes down to support. We need the support of elected officials and the public to be successful. We need you to trust that we have a very educated staff. Everybody has certifications to do what they need to do, whether it be plan intake. All of our permit techs have certifications. All of our plans reviewers have multiple certifications. And we are a little different than other jurisdictions. We have combination inspectors, so we might have a plumbing, mechanical, and building inspector instead of one trade. And that way we have the flexibility if somebody's out to cover multiple disciplines. So we'd ask that if you do receive complaints from the public, whether it be a citizen or a contractor, they're complaining about the process or about an inspection they had, if you could refer to the building official, because that's the first step in the legal, the way it's written in all the building codes on how we're supposed to handle complaints. It goes up the chain from inspector to inspector supervisor to building official. And then if it still wants to be appealed, the issue, then it would go to our building and fire code advisory and appeals board. So rather than just ad hoc, you know, and we work very close with the mayor's office. They get quite a few complaints from time to time, whether it be a citizen or a contractor. Some of those complaints, some of them is somebody doesn't want to spend the money to actually perform the code correction that's necessary for their inspection to pass. And then it's easier if we put it back in the process, we evaluate it, make sure that the inspector made the right call, and then we either validate that or we find an alternate path or another path to code compliance, because at the inspector level, they can't give you an out, but the building official can interpret the code and find a solution to the problem that will meet the intent of the code. And that way it keeps it just at one person in the department that can do that. So I'd stand for any questions.
Just a second. Patrick, currently the 2018 code series is adopted by the state and by NAMPA. Do you see that changing anytime soon?
Councilman Haverfield, I do not. I think that we're probably going to move to a 6-year cycle. We have by default because of, that's just the way it's gone the last few years. Codes are updated every 3 years, whether it be building codes, electrical code, mechanical or plumbing codes. And what we've seen is that some of the contractors are pushing back on the change. It's good to have codes updated on a relatively short basis, because with a code change comes you amend the code to change any errors in the code, make it more readable. You also drop out things that aren't applicable anymore, and you bring new materials and methods in the code rather than having the building official having to approve alternate materials. They may be brought into the code on a code cycle. That said, every 3 years, maybe a little bit too much. I think a 6-year cycle is reasonable. It updates all of the pertinent standards, building and construction standards, and not much really changes in a 6-year period. If we get to a 9 or 12-year period, that's when there's major changes,
So do you
where
see
it's a
the-
big leap forward.
Are you just following the state's model then, whatever they choose to do?
By statute, we have to follow
Okay.
the state's model. It does not say in the statute how often you should, but it has been about a 6-year code cycle
Thank you,
by
Patrick.
default.
Councilman Rodriguez?
Thank you. Just for my fellow councilmen and women, it was, when I went and visited with the building department, it was pretty interesting. These folks are dedicated to our community. I'll tell you, I was really, really impressed. And I'm going to go out Wednesday with them and do some inspections and, well, go along with them while they do inspections. But, you know, if you get a chance to meet them, go out and have a cup of coffee with them. They are some fantastic people, and they're really, they know what their job is, and they get her done with 200 or so inspections a day. I can't fathom that. I just don't understand how they do that. But there's no time for breaks. And when someone goes on vacation, everybody else catches up the slack. So thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Jeff, for allowing me to attend and to really get down to the nitty-gritty of what you all do.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Just a quick comment.
Councilman Bruner?
I just heard in Boise that since a year ago, that the house sales have gone down 16% now in the past year. So we were contracting out inspectors because we're not able to hire, and there was so much demand. Where are we now? Have we seen that lessen?
We have seen a little bit of a downturn in permits being applied for. That said, we're still averaging about 200 inspections a day with everything that is permitted. We're going to end the year about 15% yet less than last year. However, last year was 30% higher than the year before. So I think our plan is we're probably going to put a pause on hiring inspectors for for the time being, use the contract services and likely use them into the upcoming fiscal year, because then we'll have a little bit more latitude of letting those contracts or being able to terminate those contracts rather than hiring a couple inspectors to replace the ones that are under contract and then having to let them go. So I think we're just going to be frugal with how we hire at all levels. Like I said, we are actually, we still need to provide enough people to have a good level of service. And since we're still seeing that 200 inspections a day, unless we drop down to, say, 150, we're going to need the other 2 inspectors for the time being. Thanks.
So Patrick, what's the split on residential versus commercial in the new permits?
In new permits, we're probably going to be about 1,400 residential permits this year, probably about 180 commercial permits, including 10 improvements in new buildings.
Okay, so that's about 75%?
Yeah.
75,
And
25.
then there's multifamily in there as well. And what we're seeing is more multifamily.
You see those,
Increase of multifamily, and the decrease really is in single-family residential.
right, and that's what I had heard. So the 25% includes multifamily?
It does.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Patrick? And for Jeff? Welcome aboard. Hope to see you out there in the field or in the office someplace.
Mr. President, though, Jeff, you've been with the city for several years, right?
Yes, sir.
This is a new position and promotion.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thank
again.
you.
So let's go ahead and move into new business. The first item is 6.1 is a request for reconsideration of a conditional use permit for multi-story conditioned storage at District 208 for conditioned public storage units on 2 floors in an existing building in a BC Community Business Zoning District in a 5.5 acre portion of a parcel addressed as 1509 Caldwell Boulevard. And I won't read out the whole address there, for Rhino Holdings Nampa LLC. Before we get into this, Todd, could you give us a little bit of a briefing from your perspective on how the reconsideration request should move forward tonight?
Thank you, President Haverfield and council members. You've got 2 reconsideration requests, but they're different. The first one is a reconsideration request on a land use matter, and our code specifically calls out that's a public hearing. So in our code, you simply consider the materials that have been submitted by the applicant for the reconsideration, and you don't take any additional comment or public testimony on the first item. And your decision, if you grant the reconsideration request, doesn't mean it's approved. It means you have another public hearing. And it's a new public hearing, opportunity for them to come and present the case, and the public can respond. So that's your decision on the first one. No additional comment, just whether or not you want to reconsider and have another public hearing. And then the second one is a reconsideration request that doesn't relate to a public hearing. It's the alcohol license, and you can have some conversation and discussion with the applicant on that one. And your decision on that one would be whether or not to approve the alcohol license or not. So that's the difference between the two, Mr. President.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So we will move into the first item, which is a reconsideration request for the conditional use permit for the ability to add additional storage space within the facility as originally requested. So hopefully you've had a chance as a council to review the packet, to understand the request, or relate back to the original decision. I would be open to.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion, and if there's a second, fine, and then there'll be discussion. These folks are doing a great job out there. I'm not sure I will vote for the increase, but I think they are deserving of a public hearing and reconsideration, so I make the motion that we so allow that.
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the matter? All minds clear, let's go ahead and call for the vote then.
Rodriguez?
No.
Jingula?
No.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
No.
Bauer,
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
2 in favor, 3 opposed, motion fails.
It should be
3-3.
a 3-3 vote.
Oh,
So it does fail
yes,
still.
it's a tie. It fails.
Okay. So the reconsideration request has been denied for this item. So we'll move on to the second item for reconsideration purposes. And we're going to have a switch in our clerks, I think. Is Nathan here? There he is. It's a magic act. Char is going to come down and actually present some information to us for the reconsideration request of 6.02. And it's a reconsideration of a waiver to allow on-premise beer, wine, and liquor sales within 300 feet of a church for Casa Robles, located at 3143 East Greenhurst Road. Char.
Council President, council members, Shar Tim, City Clerk. I will be doing a presentation on a reconsideration of a waiver to allow on-premise beer, wine, and liquor sales within 300 feet of a church for Casa Robles. The council considered this request on July 5th, and by a vote of 4-3, the waiver request was denied. The applicant had not been present, and there had been some questions regarding the type of business being proposed. Additional information has been received by the city clerk's office that may answer some of the council's questions, which prompted the reconsideration of the original request. I would like to refer to the location map that's on the screen and which was also in your council packet. You can see that the highlighted areas show Casa Robles as it is in relation to the church. It also shows other businesses that are in that area. If you can go to the next screen, Nate. This is an aerial map which shows the significant amount of residential development that is surrounding these businesses. According to City Code 5-12-11, no license or the sale of liquor, wine, or beer by drink shall be issued for any premise in any neighborhood which is predominantly residential or within 300 feet of the property boundaries of any public school, church, or any other place of worship, measured in a straight line to the nearest entrance to the licensed premise, except with the approval of City Council. The church and their parking lot are actually on 2 separate properties. If you measure from the corner of the property line containing the church building to the entrance of Casa Robles, it is approximately 289.7 feet. From the corner of the property line containing the church parking lot to the entrance of Casa Robles is approximately 198.1 feet. The clerk's office contacted the church on June 16th for contact information to send a letter, and a letter was sent to Rob Gerber on June 17th. Since no response had been received from the church, the clerk's office contacted the church on July 5th and again was told by Mr. Gerber that they did not wish to make any statements on the matter, nor would they be attending the meeting. This property is located within a community business zoning district, which allows restaurants if sales of liquor is less than 40% of gross receipts for food and liquor combined. This is according to a letter received by Parker Bodley of Planning and Zoning Department dated June 28, 2022. The applicant, Mr. Robles, contacted the clerk's office on July 6 with additional information. The establishment will be a Mexican restaurant. His background is that he has worked 14 years in the family's Chapala family restaurant in Nampa. He has a degree in accounting and business administration and has wanted to open his own restaurant. He saw a need for restaurants on the south side of town due to the significant residential growth. Food is expected to be more than 75% of sales. He wants to provide a dining experience, and per the applicant feels that for Mexican restaurants, liquor provides a critical element in being successful. He had made several attempts to contact the church during the process and was eventually informed that they were neither for nor against the alcohol license. The applicant is in the audience and is available for questions, and that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for Char? Hang tight there in case we need to have you come back up since you've got all the information.
Mr. President, I do have a question for applicant, if we may, if you're so.
So you would like to have the applicant come
Yes.
forward? Okay. If you could come forward and again, give your name and address for the record.
He's a good man too, and also a graduate of NNU, so
Yes, he is.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the
Hey,
reconsideration.
if, Mr. President, if I may, and you may have something to add. My question, and I think been consistent over the years, and I've taken a lot of rightful maybe abuse on liquor license. I have no problem with beer and wine in a family restaurant. My main question is, do you have a separate area where you will be serving the liquor portion of your alcohol?
They'll be separate. It's all going to be sit down.
What does separate mean?
There'll be your regular dine-in, booths, tables, and then there'll be a place, I don't know if you're familiar with Chapala's on 12th Avenue. The bar is separate from the rest of the dining
I
area.
am, so that's separate, but will you be serving full ABV, alcohol volume drinks to the booths section?
Yes.
Okay, so then that is my concern. I'm not gonna go on my bully pulp now, but anyway, that pulpit, just that I don't want where kids are and so on, for people to be drinking strong alcoholic drinks. Because some people can handle their liquors, we all know, and some people can't. And so if you would just serve the liquor part of it in just your bar area, I have no problem with the beer and wine portion. And Mr. President, just one little quick paragraph. I've educated this for many years now, and you may be aware of this, but while some establishments feel they must have a general liquor license in order to serve cocktails, thanks to the development of a new wine-based substitutes for gin, tequila, vodka, rum, and whiskey, you can now sell cocktails even with a beer and wine license. And I want Kenny to be able to have his margaritas. These cocktails taste like the real traditional ones people are used to, only they have a lower amount of alcohol by volume, which is ABV, and can be served at establishments with only beer and wine licenses. Were you aware of that?
I am.
Okay.
But,
All right.
yeah.
All right, thanks.
Council President,
Councilman Rodriguez.
this is Gerardo, and
yes.
his family is from Chapalas, and it's the same style as Chapalas. And they serve alcohol, they serve liquor. It's a restaurant, that's what they do. So, but now let me clarify, did you just say that you have a separate bar for alcohol? You don't, do you?
No, no.
That's what you just said, right?
Oh, if you're aware of how the setup is at Chapala's, there's no bar seating.
That's
It's just
what I-
behind.
Okay, that's what I was
Yeah.
getting at.
Mhm.
Right. I wanted-
Sorry for clarification.
Yeah, I wanted that clarified because.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you don't have a bar in
No.
there. It's all in the seating of eating.
Yes.
Okay, that's exactly what Chapalas does. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Mr. President, I have a question.
Councilman Reynolds.
On the storefront of that building that, I assume you're leasing it, didn't it used to be a restaurant before?
Yes.
And is it more than one space? Like, does it have two doors, two entry doors?
It's just one entrance for the.
Just one entrance?
Uh-huh.
Where's the door located on that storefront?
I don't have a picture. On the, just in the front and the right side of the, if you're looking at it straight forward, it's just in the front on the right. There's two doors, one in and one out, but just, there's no exit, a different exit, if that's what you're asking.
So the door would be on the east side or the west side?
Couldn't tell you how.
It faces
So-
Greenhurst.
It's facing, yeah, facing Greenhurst, correct.
Facing Greenhurst, but
Yes.
is the door closest to the church or farthest away from the church?
It's closer to the church, the door.
Okay, so that would be the west side of the building where the door is on the storefront. Do you have a picture of that?
It's on the side of the Greenhurst side, so it's
Yeah,
facing
the-
Greenhurst.
The front of
like,
the front of the building faces north.
yes.
Okay, so one thing I was thinking about after the last time this came before us was where the door was on the storefront, and if it had the ability to be moved to the opposite end of the storefront, and then we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah, that's something I could probably get it looked at through the contractor I'm working with, and then obviously the approval of the lease space. That'd be a good idea.
Because one of the things I did during high school was build storefronts for Alumaglass, and they're not that difficult to move. So,
There is room for it on the other side. There are window spaces where it kind of is the same setup of where the door is that we could potentially move, if that would be a alternative. But I've been trying to open for some months now, and everything's getting pushed back more and more. And it'd be just another thing that would be delaying the process a little bit.
Yeah, I just wondered if that's something maybe you could talk to your landlord about. But the other thing to consider for the rest of the council is the process of applying for a waiver is allowed by the state. So it's not something, and that's why it's called a waiver, so you can vote yes or no on it. But it's not like it's a foreign thing just to come and ask for special consideration. It is a process for a waiver. Thank you.
Councilman Bauer.
Yeah, I just want the applicant to know I voted no because no one came and represented at the last meeting. So that was my biggest reason for voting no. If I'm going to overturn, approve something that's state law and change that decision, I'd like to at least hear from the person and see kind of what establishment they're having. Based on, you've served me many times, so I know who you are and know your family and trust you guys. I think Chapala's has long waits now, and it's the truth. We do need restaurants in South and East Nampa really bad, so I'll be voting yes to approve this. If there's still nothing from the church too.
No, they don't want to say yes or no. They're just
Staying out of it.
yeah.
And you've gone and talked to them?
I called them. Yeah. Their main elder wasn't in the country. I think he was out of the country. So someone else actually told me that, but he said the same thing.
Make it good?
You only knew what we had to deal with up here.
I got a flood over here.
We're going to need a mop.
Maybe a third of it.
There we go. While we're waiting for Darrell to clean up the mess he just created, are you related to Maria then?
His son.
Your son?
Yeah, I'm the son.
Okay. I actually designed the Chapala restaurant on 12th Avenue
Oh, yeah?
quite a while back. So again, great family.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And so when you look at that facility, it's split into 2 dining areas.
Correct.
Will this one be split into 2 dining areas or just be one?
Not like Chapala's, but there's a wall in the middle of the place with a window.
Okay.
So it's not completely separate how you walk left and right, but there is a little bit of separation.
So if you did want to have more of an adult area, you could separate it by virtue of the layout.
We could potentially put something in there, but the way that it's set up, it's not set up to have the plumbing in that area.
Okay.
So the drinks wouldn't be able to be served.
Well, you have a rear kitchen area, prep area.
Correct.
Okay. Is that where the drinks are mixed?
Yes,
Okay. So they can be taken out to any part of the restaurant?
correct.
Okay. So that's kind of what I was
Okay, just
alluding
like
to.
a 21 plus.
Yeah, so
somewhere
you can go one way or the other. And then as a person enters the facility, they're entering on one side or the other, not in the middle, like Chapala's on 12th.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I can visualize it in my mind. Are you cleaned up yet?
He's done.
Okay. Any other questions?
Cleanest it's been in years.
Mr. President, I just have one more comment.
Okay, Councilman Reynolds?
Just a comment, I think it'd be nice to have something in there instead of that breakfast spot sign that's been there for years, and it's always a disappointment when I realize they're not open and I'm hungry.
President Haverfield.
Councilman Rodriguez?
This used to be a Blue Sky Cafe. That's what it used to be
They're at the airport.
years ago, yeah. Yeah, so if you don't mind, I'll make a motion.
Well, we still need to
Okay.
finish what we're talking about here. So is there anything else you'd want to share with us?
There was a couple businesses in there before that had a liquor license in beer and wine before me going in there. So I just wanted to share
They did
that.
have a liquor license?
They did have a liquor license.
Did they take it with them when they left?
I'm not too sure on that. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. Any other questions for the applicant then? Because I have a question for our attorney here in a minute.
Mr. President, be
Yes.
nice.
I am being very nice. Thank you. Thank you. If you can sit down for a second, I'd just like to have our attorney speak to
Thank you, guys.
a little bit of the information I asked him to provide. Could you share that with us, Todd?
Sure. President Haverfield and council members, President Haverfield just kind of asked a little bit about the state code, and somewhat in reference to what Councilmember Bruner talked about. An alcohol license and a beer and wine license are separate. They're defined differently. Alcohol is a distillated product, and beer and wine are, essentially what they're described as. But as Councilmember Bruner referenced, there's a definition of something called a low-proof spirit beverage in the wine section that's regulated as a wine. It has these limitations around it. It means any alcoholic beverage containing not more than 14% alcohol by volume, obtained by distillation, mixed with drinkable water, fruit juices, and other ingredients in solution. So that's the alcohol by volume that would apply to those kind of things. Otherwise, I don't know I'm no mixed drink expert in any sense. So I don't know what a typical margarita has in it. But that's the limitation that this specifically would apply to that. Otherwise, it would require an alcoholic beverage license.
Tequila.
Yeah, I know it's tequila, but that's the extent of my knowledge, Councilmember Bruner.
Thank you, Todd.
Anyway, Mr. President, just to reiterate, I'm just asking for a lower volume of alcohol, and you can have that and have margaritas and whatever the case is with just a beer and wine license.
And I think I heard the applicant state that 75% of their sales is food, which far exceeds what we've looked at in the past as far as when there's alcohol sales being allowed, that they had to be under that threshold. I think it was
That's state law also, isn't it, Todd?
You can't have a special
Yeah.
designation as a restaurant.
There's 42 and 41 or something. There's different for paying what your percentage of food to alcohol is.
Right. So from a state standpoint, again, back to the point that was made by Councilman Bauer about what the state is allowing and not allowing, can you speak to that at all? I want to be stepping over a line of liability that we shouldn't.
President Haverfield, that would be what the state would allow that would be sufficient under a wine license. But it is, the state code provides that an alcohol license cannot be granted within 300 feet of a church or a school without the approval of the local government entity. So it doesn't exactly describe it as a waiver, but it's a waiver for practical purposes. I don't think it exposes you to any particular liability to approve that. It's recognized in code as an alternative, and the only way that it can be sold within that distance. So you have full authority and ability to exercise your discretion there.
Okay.
And categorize your approval as you see fit.
So based on definition, were you able to determine by our local ordinance if it's door to door or if it's property line to property line?
So the state code is less clear. It's 300 feet from the property line, but our city code is more clear. It specifically says you measure it from the door of the proposed restaurant, in this case, and the property line in a straight line to the nearest point. So that's how the 300 feet is measured under city code. And that's in conformance with the state code and provides more clarity. So that's how we measure, and we're consistent in how that's measured at the city level.
Thank you. And Char, did you give us those dimensions again? Was it door to door or was it property to property?
Council President, it was from the property line containing the church to the entrance of Casa Robles.
So it was almost 300 feet?
From the property line containing the church building, it was approximately 289.7 feet. And the reason why I brought in the parking lot is because the overhanging of the church goes into the parking lot. And that was 198.1.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I have another question for Jerry, if you could come up here. Can you speak to the 75% of your sales being alcohol? Is that because of,
No,
That's food.
food.
oh, food? Is 75% of your sales is food?
Forecasting, yes.
Okay, okay, so I heard it the other way around, sorry, I was thinking that was because of the margin, and I was like,
Just
really, you're not selling that much more alcohol? than food.
No,
I was like, okay, thank you.
okay.
Just looking for a new place to hang out, huh? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, any further discussion? This isn't a public hearing, so what's the will of the council?
Well, President Haverfield, I'm going to make a motion to reconsideration of the waiver to allow the premises beer, wine, and liquor sales within 300 feet of a church for Casa Robles, not Robles, at 3143 East Greenhurst Road.
Robles.
Robles.
Robles. Seconded by Councilwoman Jangula. Any further discussion?
And I would totally want a restaurant over there, and your family is wonderful and so on, but I've been consistent over the years. I'm going to stay consistent. If this is just a beer and wine request, you would have my yes vote, but I will be voting no due to the liquor portion in a family restaurant. Thanks.
Any further thoughts to be shared? Roll call vote.
Werner?
No.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Everfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Angula?
Yes.
And Rodriguez.
Yes.
5-1, the motion carries.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate your coming this evening. All right, it is 6:30 or a little after that, so we're going to have to jump on over to our public hearings, and we'll shift out our clerks. Thanks, Nathan. The first item of public hearing tonight, 7-1, the applicant is requesting a continuance to August the 1st. Todd, is there anything specific we need to do for that reconsideration, or that applicant request?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, it would simply be a motion to
Allow the
approve or
continuance?
Continue it to August on that date.
Okay.
And just a reminder to the council, we paused the hearing in a particular stage of rebuttal. So that's where we would continue that and continue rebuttal from that point.
Okay, so I need a motion to allow the continuance to August 1st.
Second.
Any further conversation? Okay, roll call vote.
Brunner,
Yes.
Jingula,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
So on to item 7.2. It's an annexation and zoning request to RS7, zoning district potential development agreement, and a subdivision preliminary plat for Wagers Dairy subdivision at 0 Wilma Lane, 16645 Portner Road, and 11568 Moss Lane, 3 parcels, totaling 19.67 acres, for Bonnie Layton representing Leah Wilson. Original concept was 68 single-family detached dwelling units on 8 common lots with a gross density of 3.46 units per acre. I'm sorry, Bonnie, are you here? Yeah, you are. If you can come forward and again give your name and address for the record, and then we'll give you 10 minutes to present the project to us.
Great. Thank you, Councilman Haverfield and members of the council. My name is Bonnie Layton. I am a senior planner with NV5. We are located at 690 South Industry Way, Suite 10 in Meridian, Idaho, 83642. And first off, I want to thank you tonight for your time again in the consideration of our application. Once again, we've worked diligently with staff and have revised the plan. You may recall this project came before you before and there were some concerns. So we spent a bunch of time reworking it, listening to the neighbors, and trying to come up with a workable solution as best we could for all parties. So on behalf of Mrs. Wagers and the rest of the family, I'm here this evening to request approval of our proposed Wagers Dairy annexation and preliminary plat. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. So as you may recall, what you see on the screen is the vicinity map of the Wagers property. The family also owned the 40 acres in the to the northwest of the red dashed lines. There was a total of 60-ish acres. And on our southern boundary is Moss Lane. To the west is Midway Road. And we have Portner running through sort of the middle of, on both sides of our property exists on both sides of Portner Road. And to the north is Homedale Road. So as you may recall, this was a unique project for us. The area of impact actually split the property. So there was 40 acres that was designated to go into Caldwell, which we did annex and zone and did a preliminary plat for that 40 acres. That was approved several months ago. And the rest was to come into the city of Nampa. We had several meetings with staff. The cities both met without us, trying to determine should we take all the property into one city or the other. Ultimately, it was determined to leave the boundary where it is, split the property. Part of it will go to Caldwell, part of it will be in Nampa. So the future land use designation for this is medium density residential. It's surrounded by approved and existing development, and I'll get into that here a little bit more, not just in the city of Nampa, but then also in the city of Caldwell, close by. Right-of-way dedication and improvements along Moss Lane, Portner Road will provide enhanced vehicular traffic flow and connectivity. Water and wastewater service lines are available for connection and have the capacity to serve the project. You might recall that the sewer service was actually a little bit challenged for this project. The subdivision to the south, that was where we had to connect in. We were able to secure a utility easement through a vacant lot to be able to bring the sewer line from the street in the adjacent subdivision to the south up into our project. And we plan to bring that up Portner Road. So as I mentioned, the current and existing surrounding conditions are pretty phenomenal. Yes, this is 60 acres, but it's really become an enclave. I think first off by the development of the Bernie subdivision, which is a county subdivision. That was probably the first sort of higher density development in this area. Then I think in the early to mid 2000s, the subdivision to the south came in, and bit by bit, the entire area has continued to urbanize. And so what we are looking at now, you can see I've indicated in purple the parcels that we are discussing this evening. Just adjacent to that is that red square. That was the project that was developed. Most of the properties north of Homedale are all in the city of Caldwell. A large majority of those already have developments that have been approved. So back to the Portner Road discussion. I know that there was a lot of concern last time about this. And so what we really tried to do is study what those conditions are and adjust our plan to create the safest environment possible. And Portner, right now, it extends from Moss Lane all the way up to Homedale Road. On the north end of Portner, there's a right-of-way and there's been some encroachment on Portner Road in that area. And so trying to be conscious of that, what can we do to help create a more residential feel? Portner Road is designated as a local road, and you will see in a minute some of the changes that we made to the plan to sort of help bring that message a little bit more to the forefront. Along with our development, we're in agreement with the staff report again and the recommendations. Meeker Avenue, we would actually be doing 760 lineal feet of additional off-site improvements out to Midway to connect. So that's repaving the road. That was part of the staff recommendations that we are still in agreement with. We will be improving Portner Road from Moss Lane to the northern portion of our site, and then, of course, our frontage along Moss Lane as well. So fairly significant roadway improvements in here that we think will help the current conditions that exist. Portner, unfortunately, is a road that hasn't really been maintained. In follow-up with the Highway District and even speaking with them today, there really hasn't, they have never, prior to this, they hadn't really logged any complaints, had heard it from anyone. I think after our last meeting with Planning and Zoning, I spoke with the Highway District today. They said, after the last meeting you guys had, we received about 4 or 5 calls. The staff forwarded that on to the board, who felt that this wasn't a priority or as big of an issue as some of their other infrastructure in their jurisdiction. So again, we're trying to do our part to make the road safer. It is deteriorating fairly significantly, and so our improvements will help with that. This is an illustrative site plan, so to get to the nuts and bolts of it, we are roughly 20 acres, 68 single-family home sites, 9 common lots, with a density of 3.41 dwelling units per acre. Our total open space is actually 28.43. There's some really fun calculations that we get to do through your planning department. Thank goodness Christy and staff has developed a spreadsheet to help us calculate that. But we're just at 20% open space that's qualified for this. I think you'll notice in a slide coming up, one thing that we really did is this open space is more continuous than the previous plan, and I think functions a lot better. So what we did here, the main changes to this plan is the parcel that's in our southeast corner. There was a lot of discussion about, we had 2 roads entering onto Portner Road. We've revised that, lined up the entrance to be in line with the intersection south of Moss Lane. We've also changed up, as I mentioned, Portner is actually a local road. So why aren't we fronting homes onto a local road like we would any other local road? And we believe that that would help create more of a residential feel as opposed to a racetrack that's sort of walled off in landscape berms for people to fly through. And then we've provided a stub to the north. There is a development that's proposed north of our site that would eventually connect that road up to Homedale. And then on the other side of the lateral, we've got the remainder of our development that would connect out to Meeker Ave. And I think this is probably the best slide to show you the changes that we've made to the plan. And it was very clear when we had another neighborhood meeting, everybody was fine with the traffic going out the other way. So if you were on one side of the lateral, everybody should go to Portner. If you were on the east side of the lateral, everybody should go to Meeker. We really, I mean, we can't satisfy everybody. So what we did is we said, how can we minimize the amount of impact? So as you'll see in our previous plan, we had several entrance points, 4 onto Meeker, 1 into the Bernie sub, and then, 4 onto Portner, 1 out on Meeker, and then 1 into the Bernie sub. And so we've eliminated that down. There are some areas that were sensitive that we tried to address as well and stay away from. There's some right-of-way that's been encroached on. Both our previous plan and our current plan is mindful of that. We had a very vocal neighbor that has a U-shaped driveway onto Portner, and we had a road stebbing to his property, basically, that came out onto Portner. That's been eliminated. And that is it. I did also want to bring up the school district really quickly, if I may. We understand that the school district is struggling with capacity issues. It's something that I appreciate very much. My client, we went and met with Joey Palmer with the school district. He was unable to be here this evening, but I believe you have some documentation. I know that the agreement was signed late Friday, so I'm happy to answer any questions on that as well. So with that, I thank you for your time.
Any questions? Bonnie?
President Hefferfield,
Yes.
that discussion that you had with Joey, what was the outcome of that? Was he okay with it? Was he in favor of the project?
Yes, Councilwoman Jangula, he was in favor and appreciative of the support of our partnership with the school district.
And Mr. President, that's $500 per unit, correct?
That is correct.
So Bonnie, a quick question for you. In the past, when we've discussed this project, the concern was the improvements on one side of the road versus not on the other side, and the connection just being at that pinpoint. It appears that on the southern portion of that property, you've taken out any concern about access onto Portner, correct? But there still is access then from the upper portion onto Portner, but it's going to be going north, correct? Or is it going to still be looking at both directions?
Well, a good question, Councilman Haverfield. Obviously, we are going to improve from our northern boundary down to Moss Lane. I suppose there will be folks that will head north. I personally, if the road is rough and tight, it would be just as quick, in my opinion, to drive out on a nice paved road, take a right, take another right, and loop out that way. It's not ideal, but we do need to provide some connectivity.
My question was half of a road improvement on the west side, and then halfway down, half of the road is improved on the east side. So there's going to be a crossover of some type, since it's not a full street width that's being improved.
That is correct. So
That hasn't changed then.
That hasn't changed, and I believe your engineering staff can also weigh in on this, but we're required to do half plus 12, so actually we're required to repave all of it. So with our widening on the south end and then on the north side, we'll have plenty of room to have adequate drive aisle for each way traffic, and it would just be sort of skewing the center line of the road with striping as well as fog lines. I just spoke with Caleb again this afternoon regarding this issue, and we're happy to work with staff to make sure that the construction documents show that clearly and that we provide safety. There's other transitions around the city that have those same sort of conditions, so we're trying to do our part to solve that problem as well.
Well, half plus 12 helps. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So Christie, are you coming forward to give us the staff report? And hang close, Bonnie, because we'll have you come back up.
All right. Thank you, President Haverfield and council members. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The request before you this evening is approval or denial of the annexation and zoning to RS7 and the preliminary plat of the Wagers Dairy subdivision located on Moss Lane and Portner Road. She covered most of that, so we're going to go straight to what your requirements are for approving this per code. So staff recommendation to be contiguous with the city limits, staff has found that it is. Moss Point subdivision is zoned RS6 to the south and is adjacent to this property boundary. The proposed zoning district is consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan as the designation is medium density residential for that area. And then the council must find that this is reasonably necessary to assure the orderly development of the city. And this is where you have a lot of flexibility in determining whether or not a project is the right time and location and appropriate for the area that they're requesting. So for annexation, you have some flexibility there. For zoning, again, we go through all of these items to determine if they comply with the comprehensive plan, if they will not create a spot zone in that regard. All of that, staff finds that because it is adjacent to the city limits, it obviously does not do those things, and that the proposed amendment would be reasonably necessary. So as you could see from her map, the whole area there is continuing to develop out as residential. It seems appropriate according to staff. Planning and zoning also felt that it was appropriate at this time to approve this project. So staff does feel comfortable recommending that to you tonight. The public testimony that was received at planning and zoning, a lot of the comments were just about, how come they can't do larger lots in this area? Unfortunately, with that medium density designation out there, larger lots are not allowed according to our density calculations. And so that's why they can't do half acre or acre lots. This project meets code. They have established larger lots around the perimeters where they abut the county lots that are larger. And so they have met code with that, and they do comply with the comprehensive plan. The standard correspondence came from the building department. You heard her response about Valley View School District. The forester had some comments about the landscape plan. The police department requests funding for 0.3 officers and 0.1 support staff. Nampa Fire has indicated a need for 0.204 firefighter positions should this get approved. And then the Nampa Engineering Division had their standard requirements for development. And I will go over some of the traffic requirements if you would like me to. There are some things that the developer will be required to do. There's other things that will wait due to impact fee acquisition. So she talked quite a bit about traffic, and if you have any questions about that, I've got the engineering comments here in front of me. If you'd like me to go over them, I certainly can do that. As she stated, there are 68 lots and 9 common lots. The standard single-family building lots shall meet or exceed 5,600 square feet in area. The smallest one that is proposed here, and they range in size, is 5,610. The lots that are adjacent, as I mentioned, to the perimeter lots in regards to compatibility are all around 10,000 square feet, so they are larger. A 6-foot wrought iron open vision fence is proposed on all lots adjacent to the open areas and pathways, and vinyl privacy fence is around the perimeter of the development. There are 5.59 acres of total common area, which adds up to 28%. The qualified open space within that is 5.15 acres, which is, the qualified open space within the 5.15 acres is 3.95 acres, which is 20%, and will be located in all of those 9 common lots. The amenities will include parks with grassy play areas, a tot lot, picnic tables and benches, pathways, and landscaping. According to the applicant, all of these homes will fall within the $500,000 to $600,000 price range, depending on the market, of course, and that does provide a benefit to the city at that price range. And then your conditions of approval are basically coming from the engineering memo and are listed in your staff report. These are your motions, and I will stand for any questions.
Mr. President, just a quick question.
Councilman Bruner.
Christie, do you know, as far as from the Caldwell, because two-thirds of this development is Caldwell, that's my understanding.
That is correct.
And so do they have the same open space type requirements? And I'm just curious, and it may need to ask Bonnie, but as far as what the percentage of open space is on the...
Councilman Bruner, I have not developed in Caldwell in 4 years, so I'm not real sure what their codes say today.
I'm just...
Bonnie might be able to answer that better.
With it being a faux development, thank you, with it being a faux development, I know you need to take care of me better now.
He just spills his
Being that, so I just dumped some water on it. Faux development, I mean, I would like for it to be consistent, so I will ask the applicant when she comes back up. Thanks.
Thank you.
Christie, quick question. As far as in the motions, potential development agreement, there's nothing really stated as far as, is that just up to us if we want to add anything or?
It is, we keep that in there for legal purposes, just in case we do run across some items that you want to condition and create a development agreement around. If you don't find anything that you want to condition, then the development agreement doesn't need to be addressed in your motion.
Yeah. Okay, I just, the wording is such that you pretty much addressed most things that we look for in the fencing and open space and that, so. the
Yeah, and we'd
idea-
like to stay away from them if we have a preliminary plat that pretty much ties in the development the way
Right.
that it is. But this just gives us the option of not having to go back and re-advertise for it.
Right. And that's where the preliminary and final plats, this isn't a final plat though, is it?
No,
It's just a preliminary. The approval of the preliminary plat sets in the conditions that we would normally request anyway in a development agreement.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Christie?
Council.
Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you. Christie, you said, I want you to clarify something for me.
Sure.
You said larger lots are not allowed based on the medium density. Is that correct?
It's Councilman Rodriguez, that is correct. So we have a minimum and a maximum lot size that fits within the density range for the medium density designation. So half acre and acre lots are too large to fit within the range that we've designated there.
I see, but we still have the option to make larger lots, which is lesser density, correct?
We would have to change the comprehensive plan to
I
do
see.
that.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Christie? Okay, well, we've had the staff report, we've had the applicant come forward, so now it's time for public testimony. So we'll open it up. Is there anyone signed up?
Council President, we have quite a few people that have signed up. Our first one is Kathy Heaton, who is opposed to the project.
And again, you don't have to speak if you don't want to, but try not to duplicate what somebody else might have said if you're coming forward, and we'll try to expedite the process accordingly. But you have 3 minutes. Please come forward, give your name and address for the record.
Hello, I'm Kathy Heaton. I live at 11181 Moss Lane, and I have some photos of the road, just so you guys are more familiar with it, if I could pass them out to you.
Yes, you may. It'll remain with us, though, as public record. Thank you.
So the biggest reason why I oppose the road or the project is because of the road with Portner and then Moss Lane. I live on Moss Lane, and you cannot get out onto the boulevard from the turnout because of the amount of traffic that is there. So there's a stoplight near Portner where a lot of people will go down Portner just to get to the stoplight so they can get onto Moss Lane, because you can't turn to go into Caldwell from the outlet at Moss Lane because the traffic is so heavy. So the idea that people aren't going to access that stoplight at Portner is not feasible, because it will. And if you can see, all of the homes along Portner are like right up against the road, and it's only 14 feet wide. So if there's another car coming, you have to get all the way off. And right now, there's hardly any cars going down that road. And so that's the biggest problem, is there is a trailer park in that area, and there's a lot of little children, and it's just not safe. So the other biggest problem I have is the school district is so overcrowded right now. Their bond didn't pass to build a new elementary school and new middle school. When my kids were at Valley View, my son started kindergarten. There was 3 classes for his kindergarten. 2 weeks in, they had to hire 4 more kindergarten teachers and split up the classes. So it was just really hard on them just because they're so young and starting out and making friends, and then they have to be split up. So I ended up pulling my kids out of that school just because it's so crowded, and we commute to another school where they can get more help, more attention. And so I was at the last meeting asking if they could just designate this like a senior community. And that way the school district wouldn't have to have all those children. And it doesn't violate fair housing. That's what they were saying, that it violated fair housing, but if it's only a senior community, it doesn't. And so I felt like the $500 per door was not enough for the school district to receive, and that barely pays for a para for 1 year. And so I felt like planning and zoning didn't listen to any of the comments that everyone had brought forward last time and just went ahead and passed it along to you guys. So I wanted to bring those pictures so you had a better idea of what that road looks like and how dangerous it is. And that it would be better if they made them develop the whole road. But the county said they tried to develop that road in the past, and Wager, whatever his last name is, he was opposed to them widening the road.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
And Bonnie, when you come back up as a rebuttal, can you speak to, again, the width of Portner and the improvements that'll be made on it? Because it wasn't clear, I guess. All right, thank you. Next.
Mr. President, our next speaker is Nicole McBee, who is opposed to the project.
And again, if you could give us your address for the record.
Nicole McBee, 11185 Moss Lane, Nampa, Idaho. So let me be clear. When you get to the end of the project, so from Moss Lane to where they're going to do this project, they're going to make great improvements to the road. The problem that we have, I have, all of us have, is past, once they stop, that's half of the road. So the whole length of the road, right in the middle of the road, we stop the improvements. Anything north, that's the pictures we gave you. Okay, they're not going to touch that, and that's our problem. You're going to widen and make a great road, and then you're going to make nothing, and that's where all the housing currently is, and it's very low-income, poor developed housing. So when you have low-income, poor developed housing, you have lots of little kids because people can afford to live there for $500, $600 a month, can't afford to live $1,800, $1,900 a month somewhere. So that's the problem, safety. They're not doing anything. I called. I mean, there hasn't been a problem. They said, well, there's no problem. Of course there's no problem because there's not any traffic on that road. The second you add all those homes, and all the homes on Moss, they're gonna go up Moss and go straight up Portner, because that's where the light is. Homedale, Portner, there's the light. That's where you're gonna go. So that's our problem. They gotta come up with something that you're gonna do past where this Wagers stops and north, because that's where the problem is. That's why we're here. They did lots of great improvements. It's great. I mean, bring it to Meeker, do something. You got to get it off of Portner.
So again, for clarification, you're talking about on Portner north of Meeker Avenue, that section?
Okay, Meeker doesn't even come in. So if you're to drive Portner, it goes from Moss right there up to Homedale. Look halfway, that's where the development stops.
Stops, right.
Okay, that's only half of Portner. So the other half of Portner north, where all the current homes are, that's where the problem is. That's not going to be touched.
Okay.
Okay, and
That's
you
the
got right of ways,
clarification.
you got problems, and that's where we're concerned. And her comment is, oh, nobody's gonna go that way, it's hard to go that way. Well, yeah, they're gonna go that way, because that's where the light is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Council President, our next speaker is Tim Eld, who is opposed.
Yes, thank you. My name is Tim Eld. I live at 16877 Prairie Lane, and our backyard is on Portner Road, and we travel Portner Road every day. I was here for the planning and zoning meeting, and we discussed this, and I was here in December when we discussed this again, and the same problem still exists. It's not being addressed, and it's not going away. And that, as they have explained, Portner Road from Homedale to the corner of the Wagers property is basically a one-lane road. It's not wide enough to accommodate 2 trucks or 2 buses passing. 2 cars can barely pass. And when we brought this up to planning and zoning, they discussed it, and then they turned it around on us and said that it was our fault because we had not been pursuing the Nampa Highway District to get this changed and improved. Well, I went to the Nampa Highway District and talked to one of the commissioners. And he did say that there were a number of people that called with concerns. And he says the issue is there was a move to widen this road about 20 years ago, and some of the neighbors opposed it because they were going to have their property condemned in order to do this. And at this point, the way things are, the road is adequate to handle the traffic that exists. But if you add this subdivision in there, it adds a whole lot more traffic and creates more problems. They have no plans on their agenda to do any improvements to Portner Road at this time. Nothing's going to happen. He explained to me that the only way that anything's going to happen is if it becomes a need where it becomes a problem for traffic, people are backed up, can't get on the Homedale Road or whatever like that, then they will address repairing or rebuilding Portner Road. But he says it's a very unpopular thing to do because they have to go to a judge and prove that there is a need to condemn property to widen this road. And so the chances of that happen are going to be very slim at this time. So the thing is, if the development happens and they put all these houses in there and the traffic becomes a huge problem, then they will address doing it. But to fix the problem becomes an expense to the taxpayers. The developer doesn't pay anything for it. The taxpayers will be paying to fix the problem. And the other issue that hasn't been addressed is if they are building this subdivision, how are they going to get all these trucks and equipment up and down this road to do all the work that's in there? It's just, there isn't room for 2 trucks. They'd have to figure out a way to get them in from Moss only and out Moss only. And even there, that's tight. So anyway, I'm opposed to it. I hope you all turn this down again until somebody can come up with a solution for Portner Road. Thanks.
Mr. Eld, before you sit down, you say you live on Prairie Lane?
Yes,
Is that in the city of Caldwell or in Canyon County?
Canyon County.
Okay,
We are in the county right there.
all right. Part
Sorry.
of the issue that we're dealing with here is it's not city of Nampa, it's city of Caldwell or Canyon County. So the limitations we have as a body is limited to city limits, so just so that
Right.
you're aware of that.
Yeah, this road is in the Nampa Highway District, which is county, so they're the ones that will decide what's going to happen with the road.
Right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Next.
Council President, we have Leah Wilson Wagers, who is in support.
Good evening, Lee Wilson Wagers, 2613 North Roby, Meridian, Idaho. President Haverfield and members of the council, thank you for your time tonight. I know this project's been brought before you before, but we welcome the opportunity to revisit it again. I represent the Wagers family, and hopefully I can express our family's thoughts with the passion and the clarity that I've been assigned to do. So, as was mentioned earlier on when we were before you, the Wagers have been part of this community and have owned this property for close to 100 years. My husband's grandfather brought our family out from Nebraska during the Dust Bowl, looking for water and a way to support our family. He built the original Portner Road that you've now heard about, and you probably have heard more about it than you ever thought you would have to. As time has moved forward, Robert has passed on, and Teresa can no longer maintain the property. The time has come for it to serve its next purpose and for Teresa to be able to enjoy her final years. When our family discussed this, it was never our intent to upset neighbors or cause disruption. But unfortunately, with change, these things are usually inevitable. We've worked so hard with our planning team, the city planners, and a whole host of others to try to address the concerns that have been raised. The overcrowding of the schools in the Valley View District has been a subject that was discussed. We really hope that agreeing to donate money for each home that is to be built will hopefully begin to build the funds needed for additional schools and continue supporting the district that Robert Wagers' father helped form. Portner Road, it's a beast in itself. There's no question about it. I agree, the road's horrible. We raised our grandson when he was a toddler on that road, and multiple times during the day, cars screamed down that road at 70 miles an hour. They know that road is not patrolled because it's an unmaintained county road. We also know that with the improvements we're proposing, people will not continue to race down that road. I'm sure that we can all agree that if you drive through our newer subdivisions with parks and play areas, you don't witness the drag strip that Portner Road currently is. More improvements, more homes, and more families lead to increased police patrolling and safety. I would think that the current residents would welcome that with open arms. It's been brought up that the county has never done anything to improve Portner Road. Now, prior to the planning and zoning meeting, we had talked to the highway district, and at that point, no one had ever filed a complaint about the road. It seems that now, since our last session, they have, so that's wonderful. I understand the residents that live in rural Canyon County, but the truth is it's not rural anymore. The north end of Portner Road is a mere 317 feet from Nampa Caldwell Boulevard. That's certainly not rural. So we need families, we need homes for families, and this project provides that and adds a beautiful community to an area that has quickly become dilapidated, and unfortunately have seen a drastic increase in crime on our property and along the street as a whole. Our family hopes that you'll see the benefits of passing this project, and again, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Any questions from this? Okay.
Mr. President, our next speaker is Robert Inman, who is in support.
Thank you for your time. My name is Robert Inman. I live at 495 East Fox Bay Street in Kuna, Idaho. As you guys know, I spoke with some of you guys last time. My family's owned this property for a really, really long time. Our goal in this was never to destroy Portner Road. As you just heard Lee say, that road was put in for our family to farm that property. The road is not good. And at the current rate, it's already dangerous. It's not as if these homes are going to go in, this road's all of a sudden going to become dangerous. It's already dangerous. My son, I don't let him play anywhere near it because of where it's at. The county doesn't really have any interest in fixing this road at this point in time. We feel this development will push them towards that direction to fix this road. With our improvements, this will only limit the cost to the taxpayers at the end of the day. Right now, they have to pay for the entire road to be fixed at some point. This will alleviate a lot of that. And hopefully make it more feasible for the county or the city at some point to fix it if they can. I think this project, with the way we're about the only thing left out there that's that big as far as land, if you include our 40 acres in Caldwell, we're slowly becoming isolated out there as the farmland left. So I'm in support of the project. Obviously, it's my family, but I think it'll actually be a huge benefit to the community. And again, with some of the remarks to the larger acreage lots, it's all great, but Nampa is not a little tiny farm town where land's cheap and people can just buy half-acre lots and go move in. If this were to be half-acre lots, and very, very few people would be able to afford this out there in the first place. So that's another reason it's labeled the way it is and why the city's decided to put that medium residential density in there. But I do feel that this will be a massive improvement to the entire area that, like I said, is already somewhat dangerous, and nothing's being done about it right now. So I hope you guys vote for the project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Council President, there is no one else that signed up in advance.
Is there anyone else here this evening that didn't get their names on the list but would like to speak on behalf of this project? Okay, if not, Bonnie, if you could come back forward and share your thoughts as far as after the comments that were made. Pardon? Yeah, and we'll give you 5 minutes.
Yeah, Mr. President, so can we also have, as far as our staff and Danielle, I realize Danielle is.
Certainly, we'll have the applicant first, and then
Does she get the last word, though?
She does.
Normally? Okay, so she can come back up at third.
you can.
Do you want me to sit down first?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
He's
Thank
the one
you,
with the issue.
President Haverfield, and members of the council. Again, it's Bonnie Layton with NV5 representing the applicant this evening. So a couple of quick questions that you had asked. I quickly looked up on my phone. Our application in Caldwell, we actually had 8.75% open space. So we're significantly more open space in this development. As I mentioned with our site plan revisions, I think this Plan 2, this revision, you can see from the before and after, the open space now on the right-hand side of the slide there is really contiguous, much more usable to be able to recreate and adjacent to that nice amenity of the lateral. Portner Road, yes, we understand that there is a concern. I did speak with the Highway District. I've spoken with Caleb on your staff. You know, is there something that we can do? Speed bumps, Highway District's not in favor of that at the north end, but signage could be. You know, caution, road narrows. Maybe it's something, maybe there's another sort of some language like local traffic only signage that could be placed to help discourage people from driving north on Portner. But again, in looking, in reflecting on the Planning and Zoning Commission, you know, some of the comments were, well, something is better than nothing. I think you've also heard testimony that the Highway District does not feel that there's a need for improvement on that. But as Rob just testified, as the development happens, that will spur the need, that will move that up the chain. And we think that's a positive way. Otherwise, it will remain as it is. There is a project that's being proposed on the east side of the lateral, right on the north end of our site. We're showing a stub street there. Temporarily, that would be a turnaround, but as that project moves forward, and I know Christie's been involved in those discussions, that would connect up to Homedale. So again, I think there's an alternative route for traffic there. The Planning and Zoning did appreciate the changes that we made. They liked that we were fronting some homes onto Portner Road to make it feel more residential. There are homes to the south of us on the west side of the street that do front onto Portner Road. One of them has, you know, the horseshoe drive, as I mentioned. So we're really trying to create a residential feel there, not a ghost town abandoned road that, as Lee testified to, people currently use as a drag strip. I think Christie covered the size of the lots and what we were required. We really worked hard to fall within your requirements of your city code as well. And let's see. I think, one thing I did also want to mention, originally when we came forward with this project, if you'll recall, we actually did a full-blown TIS for all of the acres, so all 60 acres together combined. And that was something that wouldn't have happened had we just said, we're taking 40 into Caldwell and 20 acres into Nampa. So that's been studied. There were requirements for improvements at the intersection of Midway and Homedale, at the southeast corner of that intersection. That was part of the Caldwell approvals. That was all reviewed by your staff as well, your engineering staff. So we feel that, well, not every problem can be solved. We're making significant steps forward. I think you'll see in the plan here, let's see, just want to go back. As I mentioned, you know, we've got 760 lineal feet of additional off-site road improvements, repaving Meeker Avenue out to Midway. That road is deteriorated. Staff had requested that we do that. That's off-site, and we have agreed to do that. Then we've got Portner Road, as I mentioned, 1,325 lineal feet of roadway improvements. Again, it's something, it's a start. And then Moss Lane, which we can't see, but we've got the lineal feet, but we've got the improvements along that as well. So with that, we really do appreciate your time this evening and hope that you see that we've made significant improvements, we believe, to the site plan and request your approval tonight of our application.
So Bonnie, I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Looking at the landscape plan that's been provided, it's pretty extensive. And I don't know if it was an overzealous landscape architect that was putting in improvements on both sides of Portner. Is that your intent, to provide landscaping along both sides?
Councilman Haverfield, that That is a misrepresentation. We're improving our frontages. I think they were overzealous in that, and it got missed. We would do the frontage improvements as required by staff along there, so
Right.
on either side of Portner.
Okay. And then you talked about the width of Portner being widened from half plus to half plus 12. So that, what is the actual width of roadway that would be paved?
So we were looking at it, I was looking at it today with my engineers and on the phone with Caleb. We would have enough width there to have 2 full travel lanes, and that would be, if we pave from the edge to edge, I believe it was almost 30 feet. And because of the way that we would fog it, there would be a little bit, but there'd be a little bit of play in there, but there's enough room to create 2 very safe travel lanes with enough width to have a shoulder, so you're not just dropping right off the road.
And then the improvements that you're providing, is it curb gutter and sidewalk?
Yes, that is correct. So on our frontages, we're required to do curb gutter and sidewalk. And then it would be on the opposite side where it's not our frontage, it would go into the borrow pit as it currently does.
Okay. And then as I look at the development itself, it appears to be broken into 3 different zones, for lack of a better term. And the number of contributing lots on the Portner, as I count it, is 27, is that correct?
Close, it's 26 onto Portner, that's east of the lateral. We've got 25 that goes onto Moss and 17 that would go out to Midway, Meeker.
So 26 that are west of Portner that would come across, and there'd be the full improvement, or at least improvement plus 12 feet, the full length from what would be Meeker, that east-west boundary line or northern boundary line, all the way to Moss Lane. Is that correct?
All the way to Midway, Meeker to Midway, and then,
To Midway, okay.
yeah. And then the biggest change was in our southeast corner where we eliminated 2 access points that were onto Portner.
Right.
And instead, we created sort of an enclave of 25 units that would come out onto Moss.
Okay. Which takes away additional, because there were more, obviously, homes dumping off into Portner as well that could go north. Okay. Well, that answers my question. Any other questions for Ms. Layton?
I think Daniel will be my question.
So no more questions?
No,
Okay.
that's-
We'll give you a chance to come back up if something pops up then.
That doesn't mean I don't, but.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. President Daniel, I know this is Nampa Highway District. Are you pretty familiar with this Portner Road? It seems to be high on the subject matter. Okay. So from what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, 1325 lineal feet is what's being proposed to be improved, and that's half of what this Portner Road is, so approximately 20, I don't need to have exact, but 2650 lineal feet?
Portner Road between Homedale and Moss is a half mile. They would be improving half of that, so yes,
quarter of a mile.
approximately that
So
1,300.
help me, maybe it's just me. If you improve a portion of a road, which looks very nice, isn't that incentive then for people to use that road more? This is just more of a philosophical, maybe there's not a direct answer.
I don't know that there's a technical answer that is going to be, that's probably an individual driver choice.
Yeah.
I would say for my personal driving, I would agree with the applicant that going out that way would likely be more hassle. And so going down to Moss and then out and around would be how I would go. Not everybody drives the same way I do.
But what my lack of logic is you don't improve it at all. So to me, there may be less incentive with the understanding that once the county or Napa Highway District decides then the developer is still responsible for that quarter of a mile.
The developer, if we do not require them to improve it with their development,
Then
we would
we
not
can't.
necessarily have an opportunity to require them to do that later.
So there's no time length. I mean, there is a time length. This is the
It's
point.
now. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we're just making safety a real challenge here, because if I'm coming out and see a beautiful road and say, well, yeah, it's only going to be a quarter mile of a crappy road, for lack of terminology, then I'm probably still gonna go that route.
And like I say, there's not a technical way. There was a discussion at the planning and zoning meeting at the original application where there was discussion of placing speed bumps along Portner, not within the highway district's jurisdiction. It would remain within the city's jurisdiction to help control speeds along there, which would also tend to discourage through traffic. And that's certainly something that the council could require as a condition of approval of the plat, and we would make sure was done.
We
with
could have speed bumps beyond this quarter of a mile?
Not with it, the highway district would allow it on the north section that
That's right.
remains within theirs, but within the new roadway section, that is something that we could require.
And final question, and there again, I don't expect exact figures. What would be the approximate cost for this quarter mile improvement as far as with the curb gutter and all? Any idea?
I don't necessarily have that right off the top of my head. It's been a while. Caleb
If
typically
we were
does
doing
the
a quarter
bonding
mile
stuff.
and a quarter mile in Nampa with this approximately, do you have any? I realize costs are going. You just wait an hour and it'll go up another 5% probably. But
What do you normally?
for this,
Dollar per lineal foot of roadway. That's likely. So we typically don't deal in local roadways. So I would say that's probably more of a arterial or larger collector. I would guess it would be spitballing probably, $500,000 to $700,000 potentially.
okay. And I can ask of course, we have the family here, and I understand you're not going to want to put out $500,000 to $750,000, but I guess I'm still going to ask the question eventually, is there any chance that you'd be willing to go way beyond the extra mile to make this happen, to finish Portner?
So I would.
I realize the highway district would have to agree, but I would think if they're getting it paid for, I would think a highway district would agree.
Some of the challenges that Portner has is the lack of public right-of-way. The public right-of-way on the north end is very minimal. And so in order to actually implement the improvements,
Eminent domain or condemning, is that what we were hearing before?
they would have to negotiate for right-of-way acquisition, depending on the landowners, that could end up.
Which would increase the cost.
Which would increase the cost, yes.
Okay, thanks.
So Daniel, the comment was made earlier, if we're going to continue this line of thought, was they didn't want to widen the road at one point because of the potential condemnation requirements that would take place with some of the homes being too close to the roadway. Is that correct?
That's what the applicant
Right.
represented. I do not doubt that was part of their thought process.
Okay, thank you. So Bonnie, is there anything else you'd like to share with us then?
Thank you, President Haverfield. I would like to also mention that it's not just about the improvements to Portner Road. It's actually the water and wastewater services that we are bringing up that road. So those costs that what we're making for improvements for just the blacktop and the widening kind of pales in comparison when you consider that we're also bringing the water and wastewater up that way. It will not only serve our site, but it will give access to the parcel to the north that punches out to Homedale. As I mentioned, we've discussed this with Christy. We've been on phone calls with that developer that's looking to come in once they have an annexation path. And so it not only serves our project, but we're creating significant improvements that will help other properties develop in a cohesive manner in this area. The improvements all the way to Portner, I think Daniel described it very well in speaking with the Highway District again this afternoon. There appears to be adequate right-of-way, but unfortunately, some of those buildings on the north end have been built over the years very close to. Some of the residents, they may get the setbacks that are required, but just barely. There are some outbuildings that would be impacted, as well as some landscaping. It's unfortunate. We see that happen all the time. At least I see that happen in projects that start out, or areas that start out rural, and as things develop, and over time, people sort of encroach. So it is unfortunate. We are trying our best to be a good neighbor. I think we've done that with the modifications, trying to be sensitive and respond to the comments. And then also just the mix of lots for this project. You know, that's something that there was some discussion about. We understand that every agency, the school district, a lot of local businesses, they have hundreds of jobs open and nobody to fill them. I'm on calls on a regular basis. I've heard other agencies say, we had somebody coming from the Midwest, they were ready to take the job, they quit their job, they came out here to look for a place, they turned back around. Too expensive, couldn't find anything. That strangles our community, that strangles the health of the businesses here when they're struggling to attract qualified individuals to help make our community great. My daughter just graduated high school. She's going to the University of Idaho this fall. When she graduates, where will she go? I'm a graduate of the University of Idaho. There were no jobs in Idaho, or very few when I graduated. So I left. I went to California, and I came back. Thankfully, I came back at a time where there was housing that was available. I hope my daughters can do the same. I'm sure all of you would hope that too for your children and grandchildren. So with that, I appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Bonnie?
Not for Bonnie, sir.
Okay, okay, so I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Roll call. Roll call vote. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Councilman Rodriguez.
Could I speak to Daniel just for a minute? I have a question for you, Daniel. I know we've been in discussion with the Nampa Highway District and regarding our MOUs, which is being revised now. Correct. And I believe the new revision says, not in detail, that we will take responsibility for improvement on the road. Is that correct?
So what we are proposing is that we would take over roadways where our utilities are being placed if they were in a sufficiently good condition, based on their pavement condition index. With this portion, the portion that we would be annexing, that is the portion that would be having utilities and being rebuilt. And so that we would be having a new road that we would own. The portion north would not be in a condition that we would take over based on if the new memorandum of understanding that we're working on with Highway District were to come to fruition.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
President Haverfield, really quickly.
Sure. Councilman Woman Jangula.
Bonnie, I really like the improvements that you guys have made with directing the traffic.
Please direct your comments to the council.
Oh, council, I appreciate Bonnie's changes that she's made.
As long as you're not looking at her, you can talk about it if you want.
Only good things. I do like that. I personally live on a loop, like that southeast corner, and I love living on a loop. I love being able to know exactly who comes in and out of my subdivision. So I really do find that really attractive, that bottom piece. I know that it's a compromise. It's not ideal with the roads, but I feel like they're making as many improvements that they possibly can with whatever they have jurisdiction over. And so, and then again, also the water is huge that they're bringing that. So I know it's not a perfect ideal, but I think it's a pretty good compromise. I wish that the whole road could be done, but they don't have the authority to do it, so.
Thank you for your comment. Daniel, while you were I wish you had stayed up here a second longer so I could ask the question. Utilities are being brought to and through on Portner. The property to the north, is it in the county still, or is it in the city of Caldwell?
It is in the county still and
Okay.
is within the city of Nampa impact area.
Okay.
There is a developer that has come in for some pre-application meetings that Caleb and Christy have been talking with, as well as the applicant.
Okay, so there is an incentive for them to go ahead and extend those services and improve the road as a part of their development.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Mr. President, just a suggestion, if this council does end up approving this, folks out here and your neighbors, and hopefully the 68 new residents or whatever, strongly suggest that you collect names, get those names to the highway district, county, with their, I mean, that type of thing does make a difference. And I always have hated it, whoever yells the loudest or whoever, but that's the truth. And, so if this council does approve, I would just a suggestion. Don't wait on that. Start collecting names, and if your developer will do the same and suggest, because I think anybody coming in would want that quarter mile improved also.
Thanks.
Any other thoughts by the council? Comments? One other thing I would point out, which I thought I just did, was that this property directly to the north of them is in our city impact area. And with this development, most likely there would be an incentive for improvement of Portner all the way up to Homedale Road in time as a part of further growth. Growth spurs growth. So that would be my thought to share. But what is the will of the council?
Randy, you get your opinion first?
Well, again, this project's it's come before us before. A concern I had was there was more property further to the west that was originally being considered. That went away and went to Caldwell. So when we look at development, we don't want to lose other developments to our neighboring city if it's in our area of impact. We'd like to keep that. And as we see growth that's taking place in areas of growth that's been planned for and considered in our comp plan, I think that we need to be wise in our discernment of timing. I think the timing, though, is good. I think this potentially with the width of the road was my concern before. Because I saw a road being improved on one half, cutting across, and then improving on the other half as it came down to Moss. That is not the case with the width of the road being almost 30 feet wide. That will clearly be able to take on the additional 27 residents or homes that would be a part of this development. The rest of it's already being redirected to other road systems. So I'm in favor of the proposal as it's been amended. I wasn't originally in favor of the original concept. So that's my thoughts.
Mr. President, I'll make the motion, and it's reluctant, but the Wagers family, still not close enough? Okay, we're close. The Wagers family.
Take the water bottle away.
Yeah. The Wagers family, individual property rights are so important to me. And boy, I wish this road would just be taken care of, but this is an improvement. It's going to happen one way or another, so I will make the motion to approve the annexation and zoning to RS7 Single Family Residential Zoning District, potential development agreement and subdivision preliminary plat for Wagers Dairy subdivision, including the 68 single-family detached dwelling units and 9 common lots, with the conditions approved of approval as proposed by staff.
I'll second the motion. Any further discussion by council?
Just have one,
Okay.
you know, we just did budget hearings last week, and so I'm starting to get concerns about, having enough police funding for all these developments we approve. And I've never been that way. It's like the first time it's starting to kind of hit me, so just want us as a council to consider that every time we approve that, that's three more police officers that we'll have to pay for. So just want to make that clear.
Thank you for your thoughts.
I believe just a request, on this case, it's a third of a police.
Sorry.
Plus a full-time assistant.
It's hard to find those really small policemen. Sorry. We're looking for them. Any further comments? Okay, roll call vote.
Rodriguez.
No.
Jangula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bauer. Yes. Haverfield.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
5 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries.
Congratulations.
And I just want to thank you, even though they're not going to be at all happy, I'm sure, with us, but for you coming out and taking the time and speaking, and I repeat, please don't let this go with this road. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, we've been here over a little over 2 hours. Do you want to take a break, or do you want to go ahead and plow ahead into the next public hearing item?
I would say move on, but, it's a rodeo.
Camel says move on.
No.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to item 7.3, which is an annexation and zoning request to RS6 zoning district potential development agreement and subdivision and preliminary plat for Bodie Farm subdivision at 17862 Madison Avenue. For Landmark Pacific Development Incorporated, the concept is 20 single-family detached dwelling units and 2 common lots for a gross density of 3.91 acres. Christie, are you presenting this to us? And is the applicant here? Oh, okay, come forward, I'm sorry. If you could state your name and address for the record for us.
Yes, good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Blaine Womer of Womer Engineering. We're located at 4355 West Emerald Street in Boise. And I'm going to be introducing the council to the Bodle Farms subdivision. The Bodle Farms project is a proposed annexation, RS6 zone request, and preliminary plat for 5.12 acres located on the east side of Madison Road, south of Ustick Road. The proposed project is considered infill, as it is surrounded by the Fall Creek subdivision on the north, the east, and the south. The subject property is currently within the jurisdiction of Canyon County and contiguous to the city of Napa along the aforementioned boundaries. The property is designated medium-density residential in the city's comprehensive plan future land use map. We are requesting a zoning of RS6 consistent with the comprehensive plan designation. The medium-density residential designation allows for a density range of 2.51 to 8 dwelling units to the acre, and we are proposing 3.9 dwelling units to the acre. The Bodle Farms preliminary plat proposes 20 single-family lots and 2 common open space lots. The residential lots range in size from 5,620 square feet to 9,246 square feet, with the average lot size being 6,687 square feet. Total open space for the project is 0.7 acres, which amounts to 23.6% of the net area, exceeding the 15% minimum requirement required for projects over 5 acres. The open space is a 25-foot strip along Madison Road, and the second open space is a lot located at the southeast corner of the project. The lot will include landscaped active use areas and a dual-use stormwater pond. Since the planning and zoning meeting we had last month, we've had the opportunity to work with Joseph Palmer over at Valley View School District and a donation agreement with the goal to help mitigate for the impact the development has on the school system. Our client has executed the agreement at this time, and the district has provided an updated letter in your packet that indicates support for the Bodle Farms project. So with that, we have read the staff report and the conditions of approval, and we concur with both. And I'm happy to try to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Not at this time. So hang close, and we'll have Christie come forward and have you come back up after.
Will do. Thank you.
And how do you, I'm sorry, how do you spell your last name?
Womer, W-O-M-E-R.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, President Haverfield and council members. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The request before you this evening is a request for annexation and zoning to RS6 and the preliminary plat for the Bodel Farms subdivision at 17862 Madison Avenue. Again, the criteria that you are required to find is that it is contiguous to the city limits. It is completely surrounded on 3 sides by the Fall Creek subdivision, zoned RS7. It is consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan in that it is medium-density residential designation, and it is asking for RS6 zoning. The last criteria is that it is reasonably necessary to ensure the orderly development of the city in order to allow efficient and economically viable provision for municipal services. This is where you do, again, have some flexibility. As he stated, this would be considered an infill property in that it is completely surrounded and services are already available to the property. As far as zoning is concerned, meets the comprehensive plan. It does not create a spot zone based on the zoning that they've requested, and it matches the existing development that surrounds it. So based on that analysis, staff feels comfortable recommending that this project be approved. So as far as traffic is concerned, they will be required to dedicate 40 feet of right-of-way along Madison Road. A traffic impact study was not required for this development because it only has 20 lots. The capital improvement projects that are identified in the 2018 Transportation Master Plan are Ustick Road and Northside Roundabout. Ustick Road and Middleton will be widened to 5 lanes, and North Franklin Boulevard and Ustick Road will have a roundabout. Those are all city-defined projects. This project will be subject to standard traffic impact fees as the project builds out. So the correspondence that was received, pretty standard stuff. Building department, GIS had just one comment on street names. Code compliance asks that the solid waste and the weeds that are there currently be removed prior to annexation. Valley View School District has indicated that they have reached an agreement. Nampa Forester would like the tree planting detail added to the landscape plans. The PD has requested 0.09 additional officers and 0.03 additional support staff. And Nampa Fire has indicated a need for 0.06 additional firefighter positions. This project there will be a 9-minute response time from Station 3 for the fire department. The engineering division had several comments about the project and is listed in the staff report and in the conditions of approval. So again, in the comprehensive plan, this is in the medium density residential. He went through the density requirements for that, and he is indicated that it is right down the center of what is allowed in that designation. So the lot sizes and the lot width on all 20 lots all comply with city code. The open space requirements, they exceed. As he mentioned, there will be landscaping and then a multi-use common lot. Ridgeview High School is 0.8 miles away and is within walking distance. Sage Valley Middle School is approximately 2 miles away, and East Canyon Elementary School is 0.98 miles away and could potentially be within walking distance. The market value of these homes does indicate that it would provide a benefit to the city, and in this case, again, utilities are already available to the property. They're right in front of it, so it makes sense for us to do an infill project in this location. The conditions of approval are listed in your staff report, and these are your motions. I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Christy. Any questions for Christy? Seeing none? Thank you.
I want to know where she got that belt buckle.
I don't even remember.
Mutton busting.
What's that?
Mutton busting.
Mutton busting.
So do we have anybody signed up?
Council President, we do not have anyone signed up in advance.
Is there anyone here that came tonight, forgot to sign up and would like to speak? No? So, the applicant, is anything else you'd want to share with us? Not unless you have questions. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Any questions for our staff? Okay, so I would be open to a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
I got it.
so council discussion. Anything down there you guys want to share?
You checking?
Okay,
Make a motion, sir.
all right.
I move to approve the annexation and zoning to RS6 zoning district and subdivision preliminary plat for Bodie Farms subdivision at 17862 Madison Avenue for Landmark Pacific Development with all conditions of approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote?
Brunner,
Yes.
Angula,
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
That was easy.
Congratulations.
I wish they all were easy like that.
Next one should be a short one.
Okay.
Then we can take a break.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to item 7.4, which is a consideration to increases in fees for false burglar alarms by an overall amount in excess of 5% to recover costs associated with responding to false alarms. Is there anyone from Police Department that's here to speak? If you could come forward, I'd appreciate that. I do have some questions. And do we do that after? Okay, thank you.
Where's your hat?
I didn't know I was supposed to wear one. You didn't call me.
All right.
Go ahead.
This had come up a while ago as far as the alarms. We were looking at our current alarm forms that was adopted in July of 2000. And it was really brought up because of the amount of alarms that we were going to, false alarms. And so we had submitted to legal a change of the format or the fee schedule, which was approved and then submitted to council to review, and here's where we're at now. Do you want to know the difference in the format?
Yeah, what I would like to know is what the current amount is that's charged to a property owner for the third call.
So currently, within a calendar year, the first 2 responses are free. The third response is then $25 to the same address, and then fourth is $50, fifth is $75, and beyond that is $100.
Okay, so it's 25 for the third, you said 50 for the fourth,
Yes.
and then 100 after that?
The fifth is 75.
Okay.
And then anything beyond that's 100.
And what you're looking to do is basically anything over 2 would result in a fine of $100
That is
for each
correct.
successive. Okay, my concern, being a small business owner, and I do have a security system in my business, is there are times where I think in a year's time, maybe I've had 3 at the most, but again, it was either truck traffic going up and down 16th that would cause the vibration, or maybe a bug that got in that was larger, that was flying around. But I choose to have a security system to try to, protect what my business has inside of it. And then, obviously, I have, by virtue of Crane Alarm, they notify me if I want to come and actually check things out before they dispatch you. If I can't be reached, then you're dispatched. So again, I think it's a cooperative nature that business owners have with local police department to try to protect what we own and then obviously keep you out of a difficult location if there is something going on, that I can check out first. What this comes across to me as being almost penalizing the property owner for not, there might be others out there taking advantage of what's going on. I don't. So, the idea that we had a progressive fee schedule built into it, obviously, if I don't get the system corrected, then I'm going after Crane Alarm and then, get them to get things fixed. So I don't want to have an ongoing problem either because I don't want to get out of bed at 2 in the morning and come down and find out what's going on. But $100 jump of 4 times as much as what the current fee is a little excessive to me as a business owner. So that's what I wanted to express and share with council.
I did run some numbers for council. So we did a year-to-date for 22, and we've had a total of, approximately 1,030 alarm calls, false alarm calls, that have gone through dispatch. Of that, only 440 resulted in the form actually being served on a homeowner or a business owner. So about 43% of total calls actually result in officer response, where we actually take a report and track it that way. We do have the discretion. We have nights or days where it's a windy night and a lot of alarms are going off, so we have some discretion there. We typically train our officers. If a business owner or a homeowner were to call or the alarm company were to call back and we weren't on scene already, we would not serve that. So that's where you see that difference in the numbers. So we have some discretion there as well. We've had around some other numbers in that as well. Second alarm reports to the same address. We've had approximately 81 of those year to date. Third would be 24, fourth, 10. Fifth would be approximately 3. And we only have one business in the city of Nampa that's had more than 5 currently. I thought it was interesting as well. We've only had 7 legit calls on the 1,030 calls that have come in that were either burglaries or unlawful entries. These are a 2-officer minimum call for service. This is one of those calls where officers become complacent, especially when you see that percentage. 7 of these were real. The rest were all fake. It was just a bad alarm system or whatever it may be. We try to harp on our officers for the safety aspect that you don't go to an alarm by yourself. Like I said, it's a 2-officer minimum. So when it comes down to that, I was looking at some of the cost and I lowballed it completely. I was able to run a report that the average alarm call resource time commitment to the city or the officers is about 22.5 minutes. So if you use that and throw it into some math, year to date, it's cost the city about $7,500 for officers to respond to false alarms where nothing was going on. I think it's as you said, you don't want your alarm system going off when it shouldn't be. So I think it's a point to where we're working with these alarm owners. They are working with whatever alarm company they have and fixing whatever issue they have, and being able to allow us to go to calls that are more of a priority. These are considered priority calls because a felony could be in progress at the time. That's why it's at least a 2-officer.
So do you dispatch a canine officer at the same time?
That is part of my notes. We would like to. If we have one available, that's a great resource for us. So if you were to look at the alarm calls themselves, you're probably going to see more than a 2-officer response from time to time because the third would be.
They get through I watched. That's a big dog in it. I wouldn't want to be in the house.
Right.
When that thing runs through.
Per our ordinance as well, if you were to, you have the right to, have it reviewed and go before city council if it leads to that, to have a fee reversed if we were to So there's a process for that. It's part of our statute as well, or our ordinance, but
You think I'd get anything from these
No.
guys?
No.
probably.
There's no way. They'd want you to double the fee.
Yeah.
So, Mr. President, just
Councilman Bruner.
how in your estimation would this deter? Are there other municipalities that have raised these where this has deterred people either from having this happen, so there are improvements in their alarm system? Or, I mean, do you really think this amount is going to deter a rich business person like Architects Northwest from getting something done?
I
I'll
don't
just try my
have
system.
solid information on that as far as other agencies. But in what the president had mentioned, I would work towards getting that fixed or remedied. So not only is it pulling resources from the police department to come out to my business
Yeah.
or my home constantly, but to also
So
avoid.
you feel like it would, in your studies and so on, or other municipalities or whatever, that this would cut back on the number of false alarm calls?
I would hope so, yes.
So the idea of $100 after the the third, is that set in stone for you? Or, I mean, as a council, we could choose to maybe make the third one 50, the fourth one 100, and successive ones, would that be?
So another answer to the why for the change is the tracking. So we only went to this beginning of January to start tracking it, and the amount of time that it's taken our record staff to then go through, is this our third alarm or is this our fourth alarm? And they push out further and further. It's time that it's taken away from record staff as well, trying to track all of that, where I think it simplifies that process. We're able to track it a little bit easier that way as well.
Thank you.
Mr. President, just clarification. From what I read, we're still allowing two false alarms.
That is correct.
Okay, so,
It's in a year's time.
yeah, so they're still record checking to see if this was a third or not.
That is correct.
President Haverfield.
Yes, sir. Councilman Rodriguez.
So, putting this in perspective, depending on the size of the building, you have more than 1 to 4 officers that's going to this call. That's taken at least 20 minutes from each call to secure the building or to make sure that the alarm is okay, is a false alarm. Then after that, if you leave the paperwork, then you have between 1 to maybe 3 support staff following up on that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, but then after that is that support staff calls the business and lets them know that we've got another report, and if they haven't read their sheet, that we leave them and try to figure out a way to manage that. So it's not just drop the card off and leave, it's continual. So that takes another 2 or 3 people because sometimes you can't get hold of them. So I'm okay with this because there's a lot of work that's being done following up and taking care of these calls. And whether you believe it or not, these are probably one of the most dangerous calls. And you don't think about it, but until you're on the end of that building in the dark, wondering what's going on. Yeah. So I'm okay with this. I think this is a good thing.
So, Mr. President, quick follow-up. So if there has been 2 false alarms for a residence or a business, is there some type of communication that goes out to the owner, letting them know that the third one?
Paperwork left.
The paperwork that we leave on scene, or if somebody responds to the
So
alarm.
that would state that the next call would incur a $100 fee?
Correct. It's on the form, and then records follows up with that as well. They've been assigned to do that.
It's also in the computer system when you report, when the call comes over, the MDT in the vehicles that has second, 2, 3, 4 alarm. So the officer already knows how many alarms. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mr. President, I have a question about, where do the funds go that are collected from that? They go to general fund, do they go right to the PD?
They go directly to the general fund.
Any other questions? Okay, this is a public hearing, so we'll go ahead and open it up to anyone here that would like to speak. Come on, there's your chance. Okay.
No, Sebastian will loves to talk. I'm surprised.
Okay. So we've had opportunity for public testimony, applicant rebuttal. We don't really need any, it sounds like. Okay, so I'd accept the motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's the will of the council.
Did you want to make, well, I can do it.
I'd just like to get your opinion, Victor.
Okay.
On, I got a little bit of Randy's perspective as a business owner. Like, my brother has an alarm company, I have his, so sometimes the sensors go off kind of weird and
Right.
whatever, but also don't want to put a strain on our police department for unnecessary things. And I think it's kind of on the business owner, like when like in my example, when it started happening, I went and got on top of it and I just removed it. It's just like, I'm not dealing with these 2 a.m. things anymore. I got enough insurance on my equipment and I'm just, so I just removed the dang thing. So, I got one on my new building, but I can see where he's coming from, where the alarm companies, they're not perfect and they have sensors and.
So you just made public notification that you're one bill.
Oh, my new office does have a newer
He
security.
didn't give the
No alarms
address.
of ours,
You don't
please.
get the, he didn't say what business it was.
So I'm going to be voting in favor of this after a motion is made, but tell you the truth, I would make it $100 after the first one. I'd notify and.
Well, go
first
find
one, so.
some place to hide your head.
Okay, so Jacob, the thing about it is that there's a lot that goes in between that, though. I mean, responding, then kind of it's the electrical lighting out in the weather, and if it's a faulty, the owner and the alarm company are constantly talking to figure out how they can fix that, and then they notify the police. So there's a lot of, before it gets to here, but this has to stop. This has to be get your building fixed and your alarm done, so, yeah. So I'll make
Before you make a motion,
Okay.
again, I would like to state, as a business owner, the whole idea of having a security system in my business is to try to prevent them from having to be responding to something that might be life-threatening. If an alarm goes off and I'm notified, I can make that choice to either go down and be the intermediary or allow them to, meet me there to be able to do that. Again, I'd like to see this as a partnership, not as a penalizing the small business owner because of truck traffic that we can't control on, in my case, on 16th Avenue, of winds that pick up and cause things to happen. So again, my concern is just the penalizing of the property owner that maybe is trying to do things properly. So I would be in favor of the third alarm being $50, the fourth alarm being $100 and beyond, instead of it just jumping automatically to $100 for a whole year. A system can go bad. A system can be replaced or can be just turned off. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to tell the world that I did it. And so I would be in favor of something that be kind of meeting in between, where a third is 50 and a fourth is 100. That would work from a standpoint of giving me an opportunity to get things fixed if they had to be fixed.
one thing that you must consider is that the police department does not want you to go by yourself to your business to check it out. They won't let you do that.
Oh, that's an option that the alarm company gives me.
Yeah, they'll be with you. If you say you're going, they can be there with you.
Well, I can check without actually having to go there with
Right.
cameras inside the space. So again, a false alarm can be eliminated with their not having to go if I can determine that there's nobody in the business and I can see that. But if I can't, if I don't have that option, it just seems like it's more of a penalizing me as a business owner of having a system like that. So anyway, I wouldn't be in
Hopefully
favor.
the systems improve.
President,
Yes, sir.
maybe you should call an exterminator.
Yeah. Thank you for that enlightening thought. We have closed the public hearing. We've had the council discussion, meaningful as it's been. So I would be open to the will of the council.
I'm ready to make a motion. I'm gonna, I understand where you're coming from.
Thank you.
Yes, I do. I'm gonna make the resolution of the city of Napa to amend the fees for the false burglary alarm and as stated in the resolution 2022.
Second.
Okay. So roll call for the resolution, and then we'll have a second motion for the ordinance. Is that what we've got?
No, Council President, we can just do, I just want to, okay.
We can do what?
You can just do one motion.
Okay.
There isn't an ordinance, it's done by the resolution. So I'm not sure exactly why we have two action items, but you can just do one motion, I think.
So did that motion cover it? Okay. There is a second.
So there's a motion to adopt the resolution as presented to us in our packet. Okay, roll call?
Brunner,
Yes.
Jangula,
Yes.
Haverfield,
I'm going to say no.
Bauer,
Yes is to approve, right? Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
5 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries.
So we'll take a 5-minute break. And
We'll finish up in 30 minutes, right? Yep.
that's all of the public hearing items that we had, isn't it? Okay, so we'll go back to new business and then finish out with unfinished business. Thank you for keeping me on task. Thanks.
Yeah, you're doing super.
Meeting back to order, if that's possible. Have we got our quorum back, except for Councilman Bauer? We're all here?
Yeah, we have a quorum.
Okay, so we're going to go back to item 6.3 on the agenda, which is new business.
So move.
Let me read what it is first. The request is for the Napa City Council to approve an agreement for TO Engineering to provide construction observation services for Midway Park Phase 2 for the amount of $129,411. And it's funded by park impact fees. Darren's here, and I'll just say that I was originally concerned about the amount of money being proposed. I talked to Darren, he went and back and talked to the TO engineers, and they lowered their fee by almost $70,000. So thank you, Darren. That's money that can be well spent someplace else. And so there was a motion to move forward with this request already. Councilman Bauer or Bruner? Does that still stand?
Still holds in the amount of $129,411.
Is there a second? Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Everfield.
Yes.
Bauer. Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, on to action item 6.4, which is to authorize the Nampa Police Department to apply for the 2022 Burn JAG grant in the amount of $107,550, which will be jointly filed with the Canyon County Sheriff's Office and the Caldwell Police Department. I'd asked if Joe, can you speak on this? Okay. Yeah. There was a couple of questions that we had, but all in all, I understand that there's been some communication back and forth. We just want to make sure that we're moving in the proper direction. There are no match by the city on this grant, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And this is a grant, President and Council, that we have applied for in numerous years in the past. It falls this way, and we're really managing the grant at this point in time. So Canyon County is responsible for what they get on the grant. I think last year they got tasers, and so they're responsible for every piece of equipment that they got on the grant. Same thing with Caldwell PD. And then we're responsible for our own equipment. So if Canyon County or Caldwell were to violate anything about the grant, they are responsible for that. We're not holding that responsibility.
So the participation amount of this, is that just to be able to get a larger quantity purchase that gives us better rates? Or the reason to dovetail this in with them, is there a reason for that?
I can't answer that. I was looking through who has been awarded or who has applied for it, and it looks like across the board that most counties and local agencies go together. But I couldn't tell you yes or no whether or not that's exactly how the grant works.
Okay.
But for the most part, if you look at all of the local, and then there's some further up north in the state that they've gone together on that.
So past request for this has included Caldwell and Canyon County with us.
That is correct. That's what I was briefed on. And our portion of that is $50,902.
50,902. Thank you. All minds cleared? Any questions for him? All right. What's the will of the council? So moved works as presented.
Yep, so moved as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Everfield.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, item 6.5 is an action item to award the bid and authorize the mayor to sign a contract for FAA AIP-37 228 man grants rehabilitate the runway, taxiway, and aprons at the Nampa Municipal Airport in the amount of $474,116.05. Make sure you get that 5 cents with American Road Maintenance. This is approved by legal, and it's approved in the fiscal year 2022 budget.
So moved.
Second.
Presented.
And so the public is aware, I mean, we're talking about, though, actually about $60,000 from a city standpoint.
That's what I was just looking for.
So otherwise, the public thinks we're making this for 400 and some thousand. That's not the case.
Right. The city match is $26,250 plus $44,365, so it's approximately $70,000.
70,000, thank you. My math is poor.
Okay, so there is a motion. Is there a second?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Brunner,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Item 6.6 is to authorize the mayor to sign an assignment and assumption of a lease agreement for Lot 150 with a YE Air LLC, and assignment and assumption of lease agreement for Lot 2014 with a YE Air LLC.
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer. Reynolds.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 6.7 is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement for the purchase of wastewater treatment capacity with Great American Snacks in the amount of $312,330 with a 10-year amortization payment schedule of 4.25% with monthly payments of $3,199.43 totaling the $383,931.78. This is approved by legal. Do we need to have,
Is this a Jeff thing?
yes, it's a Jeff Barnes thing.
Yeah, I do have a question, Mr.
So
President.
Jeff, could you come forward? And Councilman Brunner has a question for you.
So do we have a set percentage or amount, or like with Simplot and others that we've done this with? What is this? Is this what we're falling
believe
back
it's
on? Is the same type of percentage, or
Yes, sir. Councilman, I believe it's the same process.
Tom's moving up, so.
President, Council Brunner, yeah, so it's actually on 1, 2, 3, the fourth bullet. So the rate is set by the industrial wastewater policy at the prime rate plus 1%.
So are we getting enough?
What's that?
Are we getting enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, everything else is going up, going up.
That's an
I'm just-
astute question.
So, I mean, we definitely encourage these industrial customers to buy more capacity so they're not in violation of their permits. We don't want to make the interest rate unachievable, and it's also an economic benefit for the city for them to be in our city. So that's why the policy was set what it was.
And if a business goes under, what's our accountability for payment?
So they signed an agreement, that may be a legal question that I'm not, maybe Todd could.
There's a termination clause in there. If they don't meet their obligations, we have the ability to terminate. We have to give them notice and an opportunity to cure. But it doesn't let them violate those payment requirements.
All right, thanks.
So what's the will of the council? Do you want to authorize the mayor to sign this agreement?
So move.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer. Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 6.8 is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign a resolution allowing the Public Works Director and/or the city engineer to approve and execute encroachment agreements for accessory structures under the same circumstances listed in Title 10, Chapter 24, Section 2D1, if a staff level variance is granted by the planning director or his designee. This is a Daniel Badger item. If you want to come forward and give us some insight as to what we're actually voting on here.
Not Madam Mayor, President Haverfield.
Madam Clerk.
It's late.
She has more hair.
I understand that. I
I
can
should be
feel
wearing
that
a hat,
pain.
huh? So, go ahead.
So in the most recent zoning code updates, you gave authorization to the planning director to allow some staff level variances for side yard setbacks for accessory structures. So somebody puts a shed in and they're encroaching a few feet into the setback. That's a staff level variance now rather than needing to come for a public hearing at council. As we had our first one of those come in, we realized that in order to allow that to be at that location, they also not only needed the staff level variance, but they needed an encroachment agreement to place the structure within that easement. And so under those same circumstances that allow this, the planning director to grant a staff level variance, we are just requesting the authorization for Tom or myself to be able to sign an encroachment agreement if that is authorized by the planning director, so that we don't have to bring that item before city council.
Thank you for that explanation. That's very good.
Thank goodness for this.
Yeah, it's going to save us hours.
So move.
So moved as written and seconded as written. So roll call?
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Bauer. Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, next page. Oh, we only have 4 more. 6.9 is an action item to award, quote, and authorize mayor to sign a contract for the 16th Avenue North and 3rd Street North signal repairs project with Hawkeye Builders in the amount of $121,111. This is approved in the fiscal year 2022 budget.
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? And the funding, okay. Roll call?
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Bauer. Reynolds.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, item 610 is to authorize the relocation of a $1,216,469 in the fiscal year 2022 budget or project savings from Midland and Lake Lowell Signal. Now, I'm going to stop for a second and just point out what I just read. We're going to authorize the relocation of the savings, $1,216,469 savings for the Midland and Lake Lowell Signal, and $1,432,746.19 from the fiscal year 2022 project funding from the Idaho Center and Cherry Lane Roundabout Project to the Franklin Boulevard and Birch Lane intersection project. So we're basically diverting money that was saved for this project.
Mr. President, if we can have Daniel come up and explain how that savings took place.
I wish Gene Munchie was here to hear this.
I'm just glad Darrell Brunner is.
Mr. President, Councilman Brunner, the bid for the signal came in well under what we had budgeted. And so we have that money to transfer to the Franklin Birch project. In addition, the Idaho Center and Cherry project, we were not, we were able to get the right-of-way needs for the Franklin Birch. We're still working on finalizing the right-of-way needs for Idaho Center Cherry. So we flopped those construction timelines on those two And once we receive the final right-of-way on Idaho Center Cherry, we'll proceed with that one in this next fiscal year.
Okay, so, and just so our president can gloat if so needed, so are we talking about if we would have ended up doing a roundabout at Lake Low and Roosevelt, we would not have had this type of savings, or do you have any idea on that?
Significant savings.
I don't know that I would look, I might not say that, but there may have been additional costs beyond what we saw on the signal for that specific intersection.
Okay.
Considerably more.
And just to clarify, though, with a roundabout, there's no further maintenance and so on costs as
The
far as down the
O&M
line.
costs associated with a roundabout are lower than a signal.
Go live somewhere else. Take your roundabout with you.
Anyway, Mr. President, I am very glad that we had this savings, and it's going to save the city money, so.
$1,216,469.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, so the motion, there's two motions here. The first is to authorize the relocation of $1,216,469 in the fiscal year 22 project savings from Midland and Lake Lowell, and $1,432,716.19 fiscal year 22 project funding from the Idaho Center and Cherry Lane Roundabout project to the Franklin Boulevard and Birch Lane intersection project. That's the first motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second, or whoever, yeah.
Roll call?
Brunner,
Yes.
Pingula,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
The second motion is for the council to award bid and authorize mayor to sign contract for the Franklin Boulevard and Birch Lane intersection project with Knife River in the amount of $2,171,530.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? The first motion was needed to be passed so that the funding would be available for the second motion. That's why that was that way. Roll call?
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Chingula,
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 611 is to authorize the mayor to sign a letter of commitment and authorize the Public Works Department to finalize submission of a planning application to the Bridge Investment Program. Who is Tom Points? Tom, would you like to come forward and answer any questions you might have on this?
I don't have any questions.
Do we have any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, so all minds are clear what what this is all about? Okay, it's to authorize the mayor to sign a letter of commitment and to authorize the Public Works Department to finalize submission of this application. Roll call?
Brunner,
Yes.
Pingula,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer, Reynolds,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, item 611, that was 611. So 612 has been removed. So
What's the reason? Can we give a reason for why it's been removed?
I don't think the paperwork was finalized, so it was asked to be postponed to the next hearing.
Okay, thanks.
So it'll still be coming before us, I believe.
I was hoping so.
So,
Oh, Tom's going to explain that?
yeah, I was getting there.
President, Council Brunner, so we met with Mike at Timber Creek, Jeff and I did, and he requested to pull it while we work on the CPI. He's saying he's seeing, like everything else, they're seeing some cost increases. So we want to take another look at our spreadsheet and our number and bring it back next time. So but we're still in good shape otherwise. Everything is on track. Just need a little more time.
And so, at least in your opinion, you think that they will hold to the agreement as stated?
Well, we might need to change the CPI a little bit, but we'll run the numbers. We still have some wiggle room in there.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Yep,
Tom, we're only talking about biosolids, correct?
that's correct.
Okay. In time, I mean, I've heard Struvite come back up in conversation. That's not a part of the reclamation process that we're currently undertaking with
No,
with
no,
wastewater treatment?
we haven't identified a way to recycle struvite yet. Although I've heard through some of our people that we've been working on about constructed wetlands, that could be an ingredient as part of their process, but we haven't nailed that down yet.
We're not doing that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So we're on to item 8.1, which is approval of publication of summary ordinance annexing 43 properties, exhibits B through RR, into municipal irrigation district of the city of Nampa. So this is we had a recent agenda item which was approved by council for the first reading of an ordinance, but inadvertently left out the summary of publication. So that's what this request is all about.
So can we just go ahead and approve it without reading it over?
Right. It's just a request for the approval of the publication of summary.
So move as the president just stated.
Roll call?
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Angula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer? Brunner?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 8.2 is the first reading of an ordinance for annexation and zoning to RS 22, which is single-family residential, 22,000 square foot, zoning district, potential development agreement, and subdivision short plat for Happy Rail subdivision at 0 South Happy Valley Road. Parcel number and acreage is listed for HECO Engineers representing Luis Azamende. That's a Basque name, not Hispanic, so I believe. Original concept, 4 single-family lots and 1 common lot. And this is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, determining that certain lands commonly known as 0 South Happy Valley Road, Nampa, Idaho, parcel number R3239601,000, comprising approximately 2.97 acres more or less, lay contiguous to the limits of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, State of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the City of Nampa and be zoned RS22, single-family residential, 22,000 square feet, declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below to be a part of the City of Nampa, determining that said annexation and zoning are in the best interest of the public and consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city, directing the city engineer and the planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the City of Nampa and to designate said property as RS22, single-family residential, 22,000 square feet on the official zoning map and other area maps of the city, providing for recordation, providing for severability, providing an effective date, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and directing the city clerk to file a certified copy of the ordinance and map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63-215.
It's the will of the council.
So move as read under suspension of rules.
Roll call?
Rodriguez? Jangula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer? Brunner?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 8.3 is an action item, first reading of ordinance for annexation and zoning to RMH, multifamily residential, zoning district, and potential development agreement for Happy Valley Townhomes at 604 North Happy Valley Road, parcel number R22877, totaling 2.92 acres in the northwest quarter of Section 19, Township 3 North, Range 1 West, Base Meridian, Nampa, for Steve White representing Happy Valley Townhomes, LLC, ANN-00239-2022, original concept, 48 total units in 12 fourplex buildings. And it was asked to be passed under suspension of rules.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, determining that certain lands commonly known as 604 North Happy Valley Road, Nampa, Idaho, county parcel R22877000000, comprising approximately 2.90 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the limits of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, State of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the City of Nampa and be zoned RMH, multiple family residential, declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below to be a part of the city of Nampa, determining that said annexation and zoning are in the best interest of the public and consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city, directing the city engineer and the planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the city of Nampa, and to designate said property as RMH multiple family residential on the official zoning map and other area maps of the city, providing for recordation, subject to the terms of that certain development agreement between the applicant and the city, providing for severability, providing an effective date, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and directing the city clerk to file a certified copy of the ordinance and the map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63-215.
There's a motion, or there is a request to pass this under suspension of rules. Is there a motion? Under suspension of rules? Is there a second? Roll call?
Brunner,
Yes.
Chingula,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer, Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
That is all of the items on our agenda. Since there's no executive sessions, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You can